My beloved child, I need you to hear me now. This is not a small moment. Heaven moved when you wept, and I did not overlook the pain you tried to hide under your pillow. I saw how you forced a smile when everything inside you was collapsing. You didn't make a sound, but I heard every unspoken word wrapped inside those silent tears. You may have believed no one noticed your breaking, but I did. I was closer than the breath you held, trying to be strong. Don't ever think I'm distant from your suffering. I saw your chest rise and fall with the weight of everything you didn't know how to carry anymore. I didn't wait until you asked. I moved the moment your heart whispered, "Help me." Right then, I began setting in motion the divine help you need. You must understand this. What felt like the end of your hope was the beginning of my intervention. That pain was not wasted. It was a call that pierced through the noise of the world and reached my throne. You've been asking if I still see you, if I still hear you. Here is your answer. Yes, I saw you, I heard you, and I am responding, not tomorrow, not eventually, but now. That moment of silent despair ignited my divine plan to send reinforcement to your weary soul. This is why I need you to stay alert. Child, what I am about to send is not ordinary comfort. It's heaven's immediate response to your hidden agony. The enemy hoped those tears would drown your faith, but instead, they triggered an outpouring from me. What's coming to you now was birthed from your moment of surrender, when you finally admitted you couldn't do it alone. You didn't need to have the right words. Your pain was enough to reach me. I will not let your cry go unanswered, and I will not let your pain echo in the dark anymore. Stay awake, beloved, because the response to your cry is closer than you think, and it's wrapped in the form of a helper that only I could send. You've grown so used to being overlooked that you stopped expecting anyone to really see you, but I never once turned my gaze away from you. Every moment you sat alone, convinced your presence didn't matter, I was there, studying every detail of your heart, every nuance of your struggle. While others passed by distracted or indifferent, I leaned in closer, watching the way your soul pressed on despite the exhaustion. My eyes have followed you through the shadows you've walked, not with judgment, but with profound tenderness. Even in the places you thought were too messy, were too broken to be noticed, I paid attention with the care of a shepherd who knows his sheep by name. You thought no one noticed your effort, how you kept showing up, how you kept giving when your own cup was empty. But I saw it all. I was there each time you bit your tongue to keep peace, each time you stayed quiet to avoid conflict, each time you encouraged others while your own heart was heavy. Every hidden sacrifice, every quiet obedience, I recorded it all in eternity. And I want you to know that your life has never been invisible to me, not for 1 second. You are not just part of the crowd. I see you as my beloved, as my priority, as the one I am focused on right now. And this is why I'm moving. This is why the help I'm sending isn't delayed. Because I saw what no one else saw. I saw what you endured in silence, and I am responding as the one who treasures you even when the world forgets. You never had to earn my attention, child. My heart has been captivated by yours since before you took your first breath. And now, when your strength is thin and your hope feels distant, I'm drawing even closer, not as a far-off God, but as the nearest presence you've ever known. What others missed, I'm magnifying. What others ignored, I'm healing. And through the helper I've assigned to come to you, you will begin to feel seen, known, and held in ways you've longed for but couldn't articulate. You don't have to shout to be heard in my kingdom. A whisper of pain is enough for me to act. That's why I'm sending someone who sees like I see, not with surface-level glances, but with spiritual discernment that knows how to recognize your worth when you forget it yourself. They will not overlook you. They will not treat you as an afterthought. They are being sent to echo what I've been whispering all along. You matter. You're seen. You're not forgotten. And as they arrive, don't be surprised if something inside you begins to awaken, because being truly seen has the power to resurrect what life tried to bury. Don't close your heart, child. You've been waiting to be recognized, and now the eyes of heaven are sending confirmation in human form. You are deeply known, even in your silence, and this helper I'm sending will carry that knowing with honor. Every second you thought nothing was happening. Something sacred was unfolding behind the veil. I was not still while you wept. I was not absent while you paced the floor at midnight with questions too heavy to speak aloud. In the stillness you mistook for silence, I was orchestrating movements too holy to rush, aligning what must arrive at the exact moment your heart could receive it. I didn't simply observe your agony, I began constructing a path out of it. Every delay was a doorway being built. Every ache was a signal I responded to with divine precision. You may not have felt it, but I was arranging timing, choosing vessels, and clearing obstacles you didn't even know stood in your way. I wasn't ignoring you. I was being intentional. I was crafting a response that wouldn't just soothe you for a moment but transform your next season entirely. This isn't just a comfort I'm sending, it's a strategy born from love. Your helper is not just an answer to your cries. They are the evidence that I've been at work long before you even asked. And now, as they approach, I need you to recognize that nothing about this is random. Nothing about their timing, their story, or their arrival is accidental. Every step they've taken, every lesson they've learned, every delay they've endured, it was all necessary to shape them into the vessel you need now. I've been preparing them just as I've been preparing you. You wondered why I seemed distant, why your waiting felt endless. But beloved, I was layering purpose into what looked like stillness. I didn't want to send just anyone. I wanted to send someone equipped by fire, someone whose wounds know how to cradle yours without reopening them. And that takes time. Sacred things take time to forge. I couldn't allow a shallow solution when your depth needed something eternal. So I worked in the background, unseen, undetected, unnoticed, yet unwavering. While you asked me if I had forgotten, I was laying bricks of provision, stitching together a tapestry of restoration so deep it would astound you. The answer was never no. It was always not yet, because what I'm building is worth the wait. And now the time has turned. The preparation is complete. The one I've chosen is coming, and they carry with them the harvest of everything you prayed for and everything you didn't know how to ask. Don't mistake their arrival as a coincidence. See it for what it truly is, the unveiling of my hidden work in your waiting. They are not late. They are right on my schedule. You waited long, but the wait is now colliding with release. Make space, agile, because the answer I've been forming is ready to meet the ache you've been carrying. And when they arrive, you will feel the weight lift, not all at once, but enough to breathe again, enough to believe again, enough to begin again. The loneliness you felt, the cold silence in rooms once filled with joy, the absence of familiar voices, all of it tried to convince you that you were forsaken, left to navigate the weight of life without support. But I need you to understand that impression was an illusion, not your reality. You have never been alone in my eyes. I have been close enough to catch every sigh, to steady your feet when weariness made them weak. The ache you've carried wasn't the result of my absence, it was the evidence of your heart being stretched for something I was about to deliver. And now, what once seemed like silence is becoming movement. What once felt like isolation is becoming a divine intersection. I am not just speaking comfort, I am sending it in the form of a presence tailored for your journey. This helper I have assigned is not coming to rescue you, but to reinforce the truth that you were never walking alone. While others walked out, I remained. While the familiar faded, I began calling the chosen. I've handpicked someone whose spirit resonates with the depths of your soul, someone who will not be shaken by your storms but will speak calm in the middle of them. You didn't need another person to fix things for you, you needed someone to hold your arms when they trembled, to remind you that giving up isn't your only option. That's why I've ordained this moment. You are not being thrown random comfort. You are being partnered with divine alignment. Your presence won't feel forced. It won't feel saged. It will feel like rest, like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long. They are being sent to walk with you, not ahead, not behind, but beside, because the healing I'm bringing isn't through a single miracle, but through daily companionship. You thought you needed one breakthrough. I'm giving you consistent covering. This helper won't be seasonal, they are appointed for the terrain ahead, terrain that once threatened to break you, but now will reveal how supported you truly are. My child, this is the shift. You don't need to pretend to be strong anymore. You don't have to carry the weight of pretending you're okay when you're unraveling. I am not shaming your need, I'm meeting it with abundance. I am not disappointed in your frailty, I'm responding with someone who knows how to sit in it with you without trying to fix what I'm still healing. The enemy will try to whisper that this connection isn't real, that you don't deserve it, that it's temporary. But I silence that lie now with the truth. I ordained this helper long before you ever cried out. I carved space in their heart to carry your name before they even knew you existed. They are not coming because you are weak. They are coming because you are valuable. You matter too much to me to let you walk this road without hands extended to hold you steady. This is not abandonment, it's acceleration. I am escorting you into a new season by sending someone who won't just understand your story, but will honor it. And when they arrive, you will feel the difference. You will feel me in them. You will hear me through them. You will experience what I've always wanted for you, the assurance that I never let you walk through the valley alone. Help is not a promise anymore, it's in motion, and it's about to stand beside you. What is approaching you now is not limited to relief or consolation, it is layered with deliverance. This person I have prepared is not merely coming to listen, or to soothe your aching heart, but to release what hath been locked up in the depths of your spirit. They don't come with shallow words or rehearsed encouragement, they come holding the keys to doors you didn't even realize were shut. Your prayers reached me long ago, but this kind of response takes precision. That's why I chose someone who has tasted pain without becoming bitter, someone who walks in my authority because they allowed me to shape their wilderness into wisdom. They are not just arriving with kindness, they are coming with power, my power clothed in humility and wrapped in discernment. This is not just someone to walk with you. They are carrying a portion of your next season within them. Through their voice, through their obedience, through their presence, strongholds will begin to tremble. Internal battles that have lingered in silence will be disarmed not by confrontation, but by divine connection. The breakthrough they bring won't always be obvious at first, it will come gently, like a shift in the wind, like the first inhale after suffocating pressure. But when it happens, you'll know. You'll know because things that once haunted your thoughts will begin to lose their grip. You'll wake up lighter, not because life changed overnight, but because something holy is now standing with you in the middle of the unresolved. Don't underestimate what I've deposited inside the one I am sending. They were chosen not for how loud they are, but for how deeply they listen to me. They move according to my instructions, not their emotions. And that is why what they carry will cause transformation without striving. You don't have to explain yourself endlessly to them, they are coming with insight that sees beyond your words. They will recognize what's been hiding behind your eyes, and they won't look away. Chains will begin to break simply because someone dared to show up with the Spirit of God burning in their bones on your behalf. I didn't just want you comforted. I wanted you freed. And that's why I could not send just anyone. I needed someone who would fight in the Spirit even when your strength to believe ran out. Someone who wouldn't panic when you withdraw. Someone who wouldn't leave when you go quiet. They are not intimidated by your brokenness, they were forged in fire and molded for this very encounter. This isn't just someone nice. This is someone assigned. They were marked to deliver a piece of your healing at the precise moment your heart was ready to receive it. And I declare to you now, when they step into your life, they will disrupt the lies that have ruled you. Things you accepted as permanent will begin to loosen. Wounds you thought you would carry forever will begin to exhale. They are not the miracle, but they are carrying what activates it. So pay attention to the peace they bring. It will be hype, it will be holy. It will overwhelm you, it will settle you. The very atmosphere will change when they speak, not because of who they are, but because of who sent them. My child, you asked me for help, and I am responding with more than help. I'm responding with heaven's strategy for your liberation. Prepare to feel lighter. Prepare to think clearer. Prepare for joy that doesn't make sense. Because this helper, this carrier of breakthrough, is on the way, and when they arrive, what's been stuck will begin to move. I watched as you took on more than your heart was ever designed to manage alone. I saw you wake up every day, pushing through the ache, pretending you were fine when your soul was drowning in silence. The world applauded your strength, but I saw what it was costing you in secret. I never intended for you to become a container for everyone else's pain while yours stayed ignored. You have worn the face of the strong one for so long that you've forgotten how to ask for help, forgotten how to rest, forgotten what it feels like to be on the receiving end of comfort instead of always giving it away. But I have drawn a line in the sand now. I will not stand by while the weight you carry bends you beyond what you were made for. The burden that sits on your shoulders may be invisible to others, but it screams to me in the spirit, and I am answering it with action. I am not asking you to explain it to me. I already understand. I'm not waiting for you to be strong enough to reach out. I'm stepping in before you collapse. That's why this helper is on the way. Not because you're weak, but because you've been faithful far longer than anyone realized, and now it's time for my faithfulness to meet your fatigue. This person is not coming to observe your pain or comment on your struggle. They are being dispatched to relieve it, to share it, to help you breathe again. And child, they will not make you feel ashamed for needing support. They will honor the courage it took to carry what you did in silence for so long. They will not rush your healing. They will not expect explanations. They will simply show up and begin to lift what has weighed down your soul like chains. You've gotten so used to dragging emotional burdens through your daily routine that you've forgotten life wasn't meant to feel like survival every day. But that ends now. I'm shifting your season from endurance to partnership. You're not meant to walk this out with clenched fists and a guarded heart. You're meant to encounter someone who helps you release what was never yours to carry alone. You have mourned in the dark. You have struggled in private. But I am bringing someone who sees you, not your mask, not your role, not your performance, but the real you underneath it all. And they will not flinch. They will not pity you. They will walk with you, shoulder to shoulder, bearing the weight with supernatural strength I've placed inside them just for you. Let this be the moment you stop trying to be everything for everyone. Let this be the shift where you realize that my help doesn't always come from a burning bush or a parted sea. Sometimes, my help arrives in the form of a voice that speaks peace without needing answers, in a presence that stays when you unravel. You don't have to hide anymore. You don't have to pretend you're okay when you're breaking. I'm not impressed by your ability to suffer silently. I'm moved by your willingness to trust me with your weakness. So I'm responding not later, not eventually, but now. Your strength was never meant to be solitary. It was meant to be multiplied. And this person I am sending will carry what you no longer need to drag. Not forever, but until you remember how to walk light again. Help is not just a hope anymore, it is becoming your reality. Prepare your heart. Loosen your grip. Because what's coming will teach you that shared burdens don't break you, they heal you. There is a timing to my movements that surpasses understanding, and right now, you are standing in the very moment I prepared long ago. When your strength feels like it's thinning, when your thoughts feel heavier than your body, and when everything in you wants to retreat, know this: I am not just aware, I am intervening. You are approaching a point where pretending no longer works, and that's exactly why I am placing someone near you who isn't arriving by coincidence, but by commission. They are not stepping into your life accidentally. They have been drawn into your atmosphere by the very breath of my command. While others might falter in your fragile seasons, this one will not flee. They've been prepared not to panic when you tremble, not to lecture when you shut down, but to stay anchored, calm, present. This is not a seasonal friend. This is not a passing support. This is someone who hath been supernaturally guided by my Spirit to arrive at the intersection of your greatest need and my greatest provision. And they are not empty-handed. They carry wisdom sharpened by affliction, empathy cultivated through private battles, and discernment honed by fire. They are not just coming to offer words, they are coming to offer presence. A presence that doesn't pressure, doesn't push, doesn't demand you to be better, but one that simply says, you're not alone anymore. This person will feel like peace in the midst of the noise. They won't fix the chaos, but they'll remain steady in it. They're not intimidated by your unspoken fears or your messy moments. They've been taught by me to recognize the sacredness of someone who's still healing, someone who's barely holding it together. You won't have to earn their attention. You won't need to prove your worth to be worthy of their compassion. I've shown them your heart through my eyes, and they are coming to treat it with reverence. They won't ask you to explain the parts of your journey that words can't capture. Instead, they'll listen for what your silence is really saying. And in doing so, something inside you will begin to trust again, not just them, but me. You've been guarded for so long that vulnerability feels like danger. But what I'm sending will not threaten your safety, it will restore your security. You'll know it's me because your spirit will recognize their arrival not as intrusion, but as invitation. I am sending someone who doesn't come with all the answers but comes with the capacity to stand. They won't try to rush your process or perform spiritual surgery with careless hands. They know how to sit with broken pieces and wait while I rebuild. That's why I chose them. Because I knew that this moment in your life would require more than a passerby, it would require a companion formed in the waiting room of my presence, someone whose own tears have become intercession, someone whose own history with me has taught them how to walk with gentleness and unshakable faith. You've needed someone like this not just to hear you, but to hold space for you. And now that hour has come. Your most fragile moment is not where things fall apart, it's where things fall into place. Because I've placed someone beside you who reflects the heart of your Father. The help I send doesn't just carry solutions, it carries safety. It reminds you that even in your weakest hour, you were never out of my reach, and now you're not without human hands either. So open your heart, child, not to just anyone, but to the one I am sending, the one who's coming not because they chose this path, but because I chose them for yours. You need to understand that I did not choose someone common for this assignment. The one I am sending was not selected based on charm, position, or appearance. They were chosen because they let me lead them through flames they didn't ask for, through storms they didn't deserve, through valleys they could have escaped but didn't. They stayed with me even when it cost them everything. They didn't skip the pain, I let them walk through it so they could be shaped into someone who can now carry healing with every word, every step, every breath. This person doesn't bring empty promises or rehearsed sympathy. They bring weight that breaks chains without needing to raise their voice. Their wounds have become wells of wisdom. Their scars are not shameful, they are sacred evidence that I redeem everything surrendered to me. And I've been refining them in silence, just as I've been working on you in secret. You both have been in preparation for a moment such as this. The moment where two lives, refined and humbled, collide not just for companionship, but for kingdom purpose. The presence they carry is not loud, but it shifts atmospheres. They won't enter your life needing validation or recognition. They are not coming to take anything from you, they are coming to pour into places in you that have long been dry. This isn't someone who was merely educated about pain, they've tasted it, survived it, and allowed it to teach them how to love deeply without judgment. They know what it means to hold someone who's unraveling without trying to fix them. They know what it feels like to speak softly when noise feels like harm. Their presence will begin to dismantle the inner walls you've built, not because they demand it, but because safety disarms defenses. They will sit beside you without rushing your healing. They will look at your reality and still see your calling. Because that's what happens when someone is sent, not self-appointed. They are not coming to serve their agenda, they are coming to serve my purpose in you. You may not recognize it right away, but your spirit will. The atmosphere will confirm it before your mind understands it. Don't dismiss their quiet strength. Don't overlook the holiness they carry simply because they are not flashy or forceful. The fire they've endured has made them soft in the ways that matter and unshakable in the ways that protect. They will stand their ground when darkness tries to speak again. And not only will they stand, they will remind you how to stand too. I've embedded in them a discernment that sees beneath the surface. They will read what's unspoken, catch what you don't know how to share, and still choose to stay. They don't flinch at tears. They don't flee when truth shows up raw and unfinished. Their training wasn't in a classroom, it was in the crucible of surrender. And now they carry the oil of that fire, oil that will pour over your wounds without stinging, oil that heals without pressure. This is not a temporary fix. I'm sending you someone who understands the terrain of the soul and knows how to walk through it with gentleness and reverence. You've encountered people who reacted to your brokenness. But this one, they'll respond with grace, with a presence that feels like sunlight after endless gray. That's how you'll know it's me in them. Their words won't be perfect, but they'll be timely. Your touch won't erase your story, but it will steady your steps. And the healing you've waited for, that will begin not with a miracle you can explain, but with a connection you can feel. That's what happens when I send someone trained by fire, not just to witness your journey, but to walk it with you until you remember you were never too far gone for restoration. What you released in your private agony wasn't ignored or delayed. The moment your spirit collapsed into surrender and the tears flowed freely, unfiltered, desperate, holy, I responded. Heaven is not slow to act when my beloved is broken. Your cry wasn't weak, it was powerful. It reached me before your words could. That single, trembling moment became a divine signal, a summons that moved heaven into motion. You didn't have to perform. You didn't need the right prayer. You didn't even need to speak aloud. Because in that silence, soaked in anguish, you spoke in a language only I fully understand, the language of tears. And I want you to know, child, that I didn't hesitate. I didn't weigh whether you deserved an answer. I already knew you did. I've been waiting for your surrender so I could release what's been held back, not because I was punishing you, but because timing matters when it comes to sacred help. And now, the wait is over. What you thought was far off has already crossed the threshold. What you thought you were begging for has already been assigned and dispatched. The help you thought you'd need to endure for is not in the future, it's stepping into your present. And this won't feel like an interruption. It will feel like recognition. It will feel like something inside you finally being seen, not studied. Because I didn't just send help to show up, I sent help to stay. And they aren't wandering their way into your life, they are being drawn straight to you, as if pulled by an invisible current set in motion by my voice. They don't even fully understand it themselves. All they know is they've felt a weight on their heart, a divine urge to go, to speak, to stand near someone they haven't even met yet. That's how I move when my children cry out with purity. I place your name on someone else's spirit and send them forth, not as strangers but as assignments. And they don't come alone, they carry the presence of the one who sent them. They carry clarity that cuts through confusion, warmth that melts your frost, and strength that doesn't dominate, but surrounds. You have cried out for evidence that I hear you. Let this be it. Let this be the manifestation of what you feared might never come. The signs are already unfolding, if you look closely. The way your heart's been stirred unexpectedly. The way certain words hit deeper lately. The way you've been feeling like something's coming, though you can't describe it. That's not anxiety, that's spiritual awareness waking up. That's the atmosphere shifting. That's the air getting heavy with glory. My help is not theoretical. It is tangible, trackable, and near. I know you've waited long. I know your hope has worn thin. But I need you to pay attention now, not because something might happen later, but because it's already happening. You don't have to fight to reach it, it's reaching for you. And when it shows up in the form of a person, don't dismiss them because you expected something else. Don't resist the very thing you prayed for just because it doesn't arrive in the package your mind imagined. You thought I'd speak through thunder. But I'm showing up in a whisper, in a presence, in a human heart burning with my compassion. That's how I move, when heaven touches earth, not with drama, but with undeniable grace. And I promise you this, the help I've sent is already within reach. Let this message shake your spirit awake, because while you were waiting, I was already on the move. And now, the movement is at your door. You don't have to search for it. Just be still and let it find you. Because when heaven dispatches help in response to your tears, it doesn't miss its target. And child, that target has always been you. There will be no flashing sign above their head, no dramatic display that announces their arrival, only a stillness that moves through the room when they open their mouth. I did not mark this helper with physical grandeur or decorated them with worldly status. I clothed them in something far greater, the authority of peace that cannot be manufactured, only imparted through intimacy with me. And when they begin to speak, you won't be captivated by their words, you'll be captured by the stillness they bring to your soul. It will be like the chaos in your mind suddenly finds a place to sit. The fear that's been screaming in your chest will grow quiet. Not because everything around you changes, but because everything inside you recognizes a familiar resonance. It's me speaking through them. I train their voice not to dominate, but to carry clarity. It will push, it will settle. It will overwhelm, it will restore. The weight they carry will not be seen in titles or credentials, it will be felt in the way your shoulders drop for the first time in weeks. You will recognize them not with your eyes, but with your spirit. They will feel like home in a world that's felt cold. And though they won't speak often, when they do, it will sound like something ancient and comforting, like something you forgot you were longing for. The atmosphere around them will carry evidence of my nearness. There will be a rhythm to their presence that doesn't rush you, a tempo that teaches you how to breathe again. You won't have to second-guess it, because peace doesn't lie. And you'll know it's not manipulation because they won't try to control your process, they'll simply make room for it. The enemy has tried to condition you to respond only to volume, to drama, to intensity, but my voice rarely comes like a storm. It comes like a whisper that steadies what's shaking inside you. And I've placed that same whisper in this helper. They don't need to convince you, they carry the evidence. Their eyes will carry gentleness, their touch will feel like trust, and their timing will be divine. Don't miss it by looking for the spectacular. Don't dismiss them because they don't match what you imagined help would look like. I don't work through appearance, I move through essence. And their essence will align with everything you've been crying out for in the secret place. It will feel like someone finally sees you beneath your performance. And you will not feel examined, you will feel embraced. That's how you'll know. Because real peace doesn't come from perfect effort, it comes from presence. And this person I am sending walks with my presence resting on them like a mantle. They've walked through fire without losing their fragrance. They've been pressed without becoming bitter. And now they are stepping toward you, not because they want to rescue you, but because they want to walk with you. That's the difference. You've encountered people who wanted to fix you to feel needed. This one comes to remind you that you were never broken beyond hope. And they'll do it not with grand gestures, but with calm words and holy pauses. They will know when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. Because I've taught them that sometimes peace isn't found in answers, it's found in someone simply staying when the world feels too loud. So when they speak and something inside you exhales, don't question it. That's how I designed it. Because the peace they carry isn't theirs, it's mine. And I'm sending them so you can finally hear me again through someone who knows how to carry the sound of heaven without ever raising their voice. I know you've built expectations in your mind, images of how help should arrive, what it should sound like, who it should resemble. But I'm asking you now, tenderly but urgently, to let go of the picture you painted and make room for the form I'm actually sending. The helper on the way will match your assumptions. They may not speak in the way you're used to. They might not carry the personality traits you anticipated. They might walk in quietly instead of arriving with fanfare. And if you're not careful, you may miss the miracle by measuring it against the wrong standards. That's why I'm warning you ahead of time. Don't let familiarity blind you to divinity. When I move, I often do it in ways that disarm the expectations of man. I hid my glory in a manger, placed power in fishermen, used broken vessels to pour healing. Do you think I'll move any differently now? I am sending you help that doesn't look like the help you imagined, because what you need isn't superficial. What you need is something deeper, something sacred, something that bypasses the mind and speaks directly to the soul. This person will not show up polished or perfect. They may carry their own story, their own past, their own imperfections. But what they carry on the inside was forged through obedience, not outer appearances. The strength they bring wasn't developed on a stage, it was born in solitude, in silence, in surrender. And I trust them with your healing because they know how to kneel before me before they ever attempt to stand with someone else. I chose them not because they are impressive, but because they are yielded. And that's what you need right now, not a hero, but someone humble enough to walk beside you with reverence for your process. If you let your assumptions lead, you'll close the door on what I've already prepared. If you judge too quickly, you'll reject the very help I assigned to catch you before you fell again. I need you to be open not to everything but to me. Open to the way I move, even when it surprises you. Open to the person I send, even if they arrive without credentials or charm. You asked me for a sign, and I'm sending it in human form. But it won't come wrapped in the obvious. It will come in compassion, in gentleness, in staying power, in the way they don't flinch when your honesty surfaces, in the way they don't recoil when your wounds bleed into conversation. You'll know it's me because something inside you will soften, even as your mind tries to stay guarded. Your resistance won't be rebellion, it will be fear. But I'm breaking that fear now by reminding you, I see what you need more clearly than you do. And I don't send strangers, I send answers. You don't need someone impressive. You need someone present. You don't need flashy words. You need authentic love. So if the help I send doesn't match your imagination, pause before you walk away, because it might be the very thing I've been forming for you in the background all this time. Miracles often look plain at first. Healing often enters quietly. And grace often looks unfamiliar until you let it close enough to show its face. I am not asking you to drop all discernment, I'm asking you to lean into it differently. To listen not just with your ears, but with your spirit. Because that helper is carrying what no one else could, the exact portion your soul has been missing. Do not resist what doesn't look like your past. I am doing something new, and it's already at your door. Before your reasoning catches up, before your thoughts try to analyze or explain, my spirit will already be speaking to you in the deep places where words cannot reach. You will feel something familiar though you've never met them before. Not a memory, but a recognition. Not a detail, but a knowing. Because I move in ways that reach beyond intellect, I speak to the spirit first, where your heart hears what your mind can't articulate. That's how you'll know this person is not just kind, not just helpful, not just a good listener, but appointed. My spirit will begin stirring within you even before they say much at all. It won't come as loud certainty, but as gentle alignment. Your presence will fit not like a puzzle piece forced into place, but like something that was always supposed to be there and finally arrived. Don't second guess it just because it's quiet. I'm teaching you to discern through peace, not performance. I'm not sending someone to dazzle you. I'm sending someone to anchor you. And your spirit will recognize that before your logic can make sense of it. This will not be something you can explain to others in a sentence. You won't have the perfect vocabulary to describe it. But deep down, you'll just know. You'll feel safe before they prove themselves. You'll feel heard even before you finish speaking. That's how my spirit speaks, through resonance, not through pressure. And though your mind may try to overanalyze, I will quiet it long enough for your soul to speak clearly. You may question yourself at first. You may hesitate, unsure if it's real. But trust what I've cultivated in you. I've taught your heart to hear me. You may not always trust your emotions, but you can trust the stillness that comes when something is from me. And that stillness will meet you when they walk into the room. Don't rush to explain it away. Don't drown it out by looking for flaws. What's happening is holy. It's me confirming to you that what's arriving isn't coincidence. I will cause signs to appear in ways that only you will notice. A phrase they say will echo something you told me in the dark. A tone in their voice will remind you of how I spoke to you when you were breaking. They'll understand a part of your journey without you needing to unpack every layer. That's not because they are psychic, it's because I've prepared them by giving them insight that comes from me. And in that moment, your heart will testify, this is the one sent to walk with you now. Don't wait for human approval. Don't delay waiting for perfect clarity. What I give is deeper than surface confirmation. I give spiritual alignment. and it will settle into place so quietly that it may not even feel supernatural at first. But that's how I move in sacred things. I won't shout over your chaos, I will speak beneath it. I won't prove things with drama, I'll prove them with peace. You'll know because your defenses will lower even when your habits try to raise them. You'll know because you will stop preparing for disappointment without even realizing it. That's my spirit bearing witness. And when it happens, let it happen. Don't fight the help I'm sending because you're afraid of being wrong. I don't ask you to be perfect in discernment, I ask you to stay close enough to me that you can recognize my voice when it moves through others. And I promise you, when this person speaks, your soul will hear me. Not because they're flawless, but because they've been entrusted with a piece of your restoration. Let the knowing settle. Let the peace confirm. And trust that your spirit will guide you long before your thoughts fully understand what I've just begun. I remember the moment you whispered in desperation, "Lord, show me something, anything." You didn't ask for riches or recognition. You didn't demand loud miracles or dazzling wonders. You just asked for something real, something that would remind you I hadn't forgotten you. And now, in response to that humble cry, I'm sending a living answer, a walking confirmation clothed in human skin, someone whose very presence will carry the imprint of my reply. You expected flashes in the sky, voices in the night, were writing on the wall. But instead, I chose the quiet arrival of someone who will reflect my heart back to you in ways that leave no doubt. This is not just a good person crossing your path. This is a hand-picked carrier of proof. Their story, their timing, their words, it will all bear witness to the fact that I heard you, that I move, that I chose to show up through someone who doesn't even fully understand how significant they are to your life right now. And that's how you'll know it's me. They won't come to impress you or overpower you. They'll arrive gently, humbly, just as I entered the world, subtle, yet unstoppable. What they bring isn't random. It's a message you've needed to hear but couldn't receive from just anyone. I could have sent a dream. I could have stirred a million. But this time, I chose something more tangible. I chose someone who can sit beside you when your faith is threadbare, someone who won't just speak hope but will embody it. They don't know all the details of what you're going through, but I've placed in them everything you'll need to feel seen again. Every gesture they make, every word they share, every silence they hold will echo something deeper than comfort. It will echo the sound of heaven responding to earth. When they speak, something inside you will lift. When they listen, your soul will settle. And when they stay, you'll begin to believe again that maybe, just maybe, I've been closer all along than you ever dared to hope. You've been begging me for direction, waiting for a door to open, or a clear signal that you're not walking in circles. Let this person be that door. Let their arrival be the arrow pointing forward. Don't look for lightning, look for peace. Don't expect a love arrival, expect presence. I've wrapped your sign in the form of someone who carries my light without needing to announce it. And I'm asking you not to analyze them too much. Don't look for perfection in their speech or credentials in their history. Look for alignment. Look for the way they naturally meet you where you are. That's the sign. I didn't bring them to change you with pressure, but to realign you with purpose. Your spirit will feel it before your thoughts catch up. Don't miss it trying to explain it. You asked for something to hold on to, and I've answered with someone who's been holding on to me long enough to carry you for a little while. It may not be what you envisioned, but it will be exactly what you need. So let this shift your perspective. Your sign isn't coming. It has already been sent. Don't keep waiting for tomorrow when the answer is standing in front of you today. Don't keep praying for evidence when I've already placed it in motion. This person won't come to fill every gap in your life, but they will carry enough of my presence to remind you that I've never stopped listening. This is the sign. Watch for it, not with your eyes alone, but with your heart wide open. Because when I send a sign in the form of a person, it's never just for a moment, it's for the movement I'm beginning inside of you right now. They are not arriving to become your solution, because I never intended for any human to carry that weight. I alone am your savior. But what I have placed inside this helper is not a rescue mission, it is a release. They are not coming to take your burdens away, but to help you find the part of yourself that got buried beneath them. There is a version of you, pure and still breathing beneath the layers of disappointment, silence, and survival, that I'm ready to awaken, and this person is the key I've anointed to do it. They won't need to ask too many questions or dig forcefully into your past. Their presence alone will begin to stir what has long remained dormant. Not because they are forceful, but because they carry grace that whispers to your hidden places, "It's safe to come out now." You've been functioning with only fragments of who you really are, getting by, but not thriving. Laughing in rooms, but only from the surface. Offering support to others while secretly wondering if you've lost yourself completely. I've seen it. I've felt your heart's ache for reconnection with the version of yourself that used to dream, used to believe, used to feel joy without guilt. And now, through this person, I'm beginning the process of reuniting you with that sacred self again. They will not save you, but they will sit with you while I do. They are not your healer, but they will hold space for me to pour healing into places you shut down long ago. They are not arriving with a plan or a timeline. They are arriving with permission for you to slow down, for you to breathe, for you to feel again without fear of falling apart. Because you're not falling apart anymore, you're falling into alignment. And I chose someone who wouldn't flinch at your unraveling, someone who wouldn't mistake your tears for weakness or your silence for rejection. They've been trained in stillness. They know how to hold sacred what others mishandled. Their calm won't pressure you to move faster than you're ready. Their consistency will create the environment your soul has been craving, a place where you're not just understood, but honored. That's when things will begin to shift. Not because they told you who you should be, but because they gave you room to rediscover who you've always been beneath the weight of survival. This is where the unlocking begins. One word, one moment, one honest breath at a time. You will begin to recognize yourself again, not through their lens, but through the light they carry, which reflects my view of you. The lies that once told you to stay hidden will lose their grip. The shame that silenced your voice will begin to loosen. You will speak things you haven't dared to say in years. You will admit truth you thought you had to bury. And in doing so, you will not crumble. You will rise. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But steadily, faithfully. Because my restoration doesn't always look like immediate transformation. Sometimes it looks like slow, beautiful unlocking, like layers peeling back without force, like light breaking through cracks you forgot were there. That's what this person is bringing. Not answers. Not demands. But presence that makes room for the real you to return. And when you start to feel that shift, don't run from it. Let it unfold. Let what's been hidden step into the open. You don't need to be afraid of the unfamiliar within you. I created that part of you. And now it's time for it to live again. So when you feel that stirring, when you sense that inner door cracking open, don't shut it again. Let me move. Let me awaken. Because I'm not just sending someone to help you feel better, I'm sending someone to help you finally become whole. There are places within you that have been held hostage by hesitation for far too long, dreams paused, steps delayed, voice quieted, not because you lacked purpose, but because fear crept in and whispered lies you began to believe. It told you it was safer to shrink than to stand, safer to stay still than to move, safer to endure than to expect. And in trying to protect yourself, you began to slowly disconnect from the fire I once placed inside you. You tried to call it wisdom, you told yourself you were just being cautious, but underneath it all was fear, paralyzing you in disguise. I never condemned you for it, child. I never turned my back when you froze. I knew what had wounded you. I understood why you held back, and I have waited for the moment when the healing I've prepared would collide with the hesitation that has held you. That moment is now. And the helper I am sending isn't coming with motivation or pressure. They are coming with presence. And through that presence, fear will begin to lose its grip, not because they demand bravery, but because they make space for it to rise again. Your words won't be rehearsed pep talks they won't have to convince you to believe. Their nearness will ignite something in you that has been buried, the quiet, steady courage that knows how to rise without permission. You've forgotten what it feels like to hope boldly, to risk again, to trust yourself when you hear my voice. But as they stand beside you, you will notice the atmosphere shift. The fear that once kept you frozen will begin to unravel, gently, almost invisibly. One moment you will realize you spoke up without overthinking it. Another, that you moved when you would have stalled. That's not coincidence, that's courage returning. Not the loud kind, but the steady kind. The kind that doesn't need applause to keep going. The kind that shows up quietly and stays until it becomes your new default. And they will be used by me to model it, not preach it. You'll see it in the way they walk with me unshaken. In the way they move even when the outcome is unknown. In the way they choose obedience over approval, depth over comfort. And simply being near someone like that will awaken something long asleep in you. That's the beauty of what I send. It doesn't manipulate. It inspires. This helper's life will speak louder than their words. Their peace will reveal what's possible when fear no longer gets to decide the outcome. And as they sit with you, listen to you, walk with you, you'll notice you don't flinch the way you used to. You don't hide. You don't silence your dreams before they form. Because slowly, gently, without pressure or force, your spirit begins to remember who you are. That's my doing. That's the gift of proximity to someone I've sent, someone who's walked through fear and learned how to carry faith without shouting about it. They won't ask you to leap, but you'll find yourself wanting to step forward again, not because you have to, but because something inside you is stirring. That stirring is holy. It's the courage you thought was lost. And I'm fanning it back into flame, not with noise, but with nearness. So don't resist this inner movement. When you feel it rise, when you sense that old familiar fire warming again, lean into it. Don't apologize for wanting more. Don't suppress the urge to move simply because you're afraid of failing again. I am sending someone to stand beside you so that fear no longer gets the final say. This is your moment to begin again, not alone, but with support that breathes life into the places fear tried to silence. Let that courage speak now. Let it move. Because I'm no longer allowing fear to keep you from what I've already called yours. There are places within you that haven't been touched by language in years, inner rooms where you stored your unsaid thoughts, tucked away your aches, and hid the truths that were too heavy to release into the air. You convinced yourself it was safer that way. That silence was strength. That bottling the pain was the price of being steady for others. And yet, those words, those real, raw, vulnerable words have never stopped pressing against your chest, waiting for a moment, for a person, for a space safe enough to finally come out. You didn't lose your voice, beloved. You buried it. You didn't forget how to speak truth, you just forgot how to believe someone could handle it. But now, I am sending someone who doesn't come with rehearsed responses or shallow comfort. They are not here to interrogate your silence, but to sit with it. And when they speak, they won't touch the surface of your situation. They'll find their way into the places even you stopped visiting. Not because they are skilled manipulators of conversation, but because I have anointed their words to carry precision. Their tone won't trigger your defenses. Their questions won't provoke your shame. Instead, something about the way they speak will begin to gently unseal what's been guarded. They will ask something, and suddenly a memory will rise. They'll comment softly, and you'll feel tears press forward from places you thought were long dry. Not because you're weak, but because you're safe. That's what happens when I send someone who carries not just empathy, but alignment. Their words won't pull, they'll draw. They'll move slowly, instinctively guided by my spirit, not their curiosity. And in their presence, you'll find yourself saying things you hadn't planned, revealing layers you thought no one would ever know, not for validation, not for attention, but because you'll sense in your spirit. This moment is different. And it is. Because what you've held in is not just pain, it's purpose that has been waiting to be freed. What you stored up in silence wasn't meant to rot, it was meant to be released so I could turn it into testimony. But I knew you couldn't do it in just any environment. You needed sacred soil. You needed the kind of conversation that heals as it opens. And so I'm sending someone who can speak to your hidden places without ever violating your story. They won't press too hard. They won't ask for details you're not ready to share. They'll simply be present in a way that opens the vault without force. Because I've trained them in how to hear what's unspoken. I've shaped them through their own silences, their own seasons of holding things in until they met someone who made them feel heard. And now, they are coming to be that for you, not a counselor, not a savior, not a solution, but a mirror that helps you hear yourself again. And when the words begin to flow, when the long-buried truths begin to surface, do not pull back. Let the silence break. Let the truth breathe. Let the tears fall. I am not afraid of what you will say. I've already seen every word you were too afraid to speak. I've held them all in my heart, and now I'm giving you space to release them, one sentence at a time. You don't have to rush. You don't have to tell it all in one breath. Just know this. When they speak and your silence starts to shake loose, it's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. And I will be in the midst of every word, every pause, every breath. Because I am not just sending someone to talk, I am sending someone whose voice carries the sound of your healing, and it is already reaching the parts of you you thought no one would ever touch. They are not arriving to lift you out of your story, or to write a new one for you. They are coming to hand you the mirror you forgot existed, the one that reflects the version of you that hasn't been erased, only hidden. You've spent so much time trying to survive what was meant to shape you that you've started questioning if anything strong or holy still lives inside you. You look in the mirror and see fatigue. You hear your own voice and question its authority. But I see what you no longer remember. The strength I wove into your soul, the resilience I seeded into your bones, the fire I lit behind your ribs when I first called you my own. And this person I'm sending, they've been assigned not to replace your strength, but to awaken it. Their words will not feed your dependency. They will feed your remembrance. They won't build you a new path, they'll point to the one you've always had under your feet, buried under the debris of discouragement. You've looked for someone to carry you, and I'm sending someone to remind you that your legs still work. You've begged me to give you a voice, but what you really need is someone who reminds you that you never lost it. You silenced it because life convinced you no one would hear. But I'm sending someone who will hear. And when they do, they'll echo it back to you until your soul starts to believe again. They will arrive with a cape or a tail. They won't attempt to heal what I've already begun touching. They will stand beside you, holding out truth when you can't seem to find it for yourself. When you begin to spiral into self-doubt, they'll speak identity over you without hesitation. Not because they're strong, but because they know what it feels like to forget your own name in the face of pain. And through their example, their steadiness, their consistent honoring of your journey, you will begin to see what I always saw. You'll start to feel the flicker of your courage return. You'll reach for things you stopped dreaming of. And you will feel pushed into becoming someone else. You'll feel invited to return to who you were before shame distorted your vision. That's what I've anointed them to do. They won't take the spotlight. They won't try to make you dependent on them. They'll keep pointing you back to me. Over and over. With patience. With love. With wisdom that has no agenda except to remind you that you carry something eternal. You will not be rebuilt from scratch, you will be restored by memory. My memory of you. Their role is simple but sacred. To hold up truth like a lamp until you can see again. And when your shoulders start to straighten, when your breath comes easier, when your vision clears just a little, you'll know that this isn't someone who came to be the answer. This is someone who came to help you find what's been there all along. My voice. My presence. My deposit in you. This is a divine assignment, not a temporary role. This is someone who was formed by me to walk beside you and call forth what the world tried to bury under disappointment. You will not rise because they lifted you, you will rise because they helped you remember how to stand. So when they speak life, don't deflect it. When they reflect beauty, don't reject it. Let their words stretch past your defenses and settle in the soil of your heart. Because every reminder they offer is backed by heaven's truth. I've placed something inside you that's worth protecting, worth restoring, And now through this connection it's worth remembering. There's been a version of you waiting beneath the surface, a version not defined by what hurt you, not shaped by what broke you, and not silenced by the disappointments that came too close, too often. That version of you, the one formed in my image, molded in quiet strength, and filled with radiant purpose, didn't disappear. It receded. It stepped back into the shadows, not out of weakness but out of protection. You were trying to survive in a world that didn't make space for your softness, for your cawing, for your depth. You were told to be quieter, smaller, easier to handle. So you adapted, didn't you? You adjusted your light to keep from standing out. You lowered your voice to avoid being misunderstood, and you wrapped yourself in layers that didn't fit just so others wouldn't feel threatened by your truth. But I never designed you to live hidden. And I never gave up waiting for the day you would step fully into the radiance I placed in you. That day begins now. And this helper I'm sending, this soul I've equipped for such a sacred task, they are not coming to introduce a new identity to you. They are coming to remove the dust from the one that's always been there. They will speak into your life not with control or assumption, but with a gentleness that reaches through your defenses and says, I see you, and I'm not afraid of your light. You spent years surrounded by people who tolerated your presence but never truly celebrated your design. You became good at being what was expected, all the while mourning the parts of yourself that had no room to breathe. But now I'm sending someone who doesn't just make room for the real you, they welcome it. They are drawn to the strength behind your stillness, the wisdom hidden beneath your quiet, the fire smoldering under your gentleness. And because they see it, they'll help call it forward. Not with force, not with pressure, but with patient, consistent presence. Their belief in who you are will sound like me. It will echo what I've been speaking into your soul for years in the secret place. And little by little, the layers you used to survive will begin to peel away. The real you will start to return, not the version polished by performance, but the one who knows how to love without fear, to lead without apology, to dream without restraint. They will not let you shrink back into invisibility. They will remind you softly, constantly, that you were made for the light, not for the shadows. And as you begin to rise, they'll stand beside you, not in front, not behind, but right there in step, steady and sure. They'll speak words that awaken your memory, your voice, your clarity. Not because they have some special gift, but because they've been given a divine lens to see past the fog and reflect the original design I placed in you. And you'll feel it. You'll feel yourself returning, like breath coming back to lungs that forgot how to expand. You'll feel the shame begin to lift, not all at once, but enough to start walking in the open again. You won't have to announce it. You won't need to explain it. You'll just start living it. And the ones who see the shift will ask what changed. But you will know this wasn't a change. This was a return. A return to the you that always lived underneath the silence, underneath the pain, underneath the mask. And that return is holy. So when they show up, and the light in you starts to flicker back to life, don't be afraid. It's not too bright. It's not too much. It's right on time. Because what I'm doing now is not about repairing what's broken, it's about resurrecting what's been buried. And that resurrection begins with someone who knows how to stand close enough to call the real you back into the light without ever needing to force the door open. There were moments when your own reflection felt like a stranger. Days where your breath was heavy, your footsteps slower, and your prayers quieter than they used to be. You didn't stop loving me. You didn't turn your back on faith. But somewhere along the path of endurance, your strength began to feel like a distant memory, something you used to carry but now only remember in glimpses. You assumed it slipped away during the chaos, as if loss had drained it, as if heartbreak had shattered it, as if time had worn a tooth in to reach for again. But child, I need you to know what I placed inside of you cannot be destroyed by pain. Your strength wasn't lost in the fire, it was hidden for safekeeping beneath the ashes. And now I am sending someone who will help you uncover it. They are not coming with loud declarations or solutions wrapped in urgency. They are arriving with the tenderness of someone who knows how to search through wreckage without causing further damage. Their presence will remind you how to dig where you've buried your hope. They will not ask you to suddenly rise. They will kneel with you in the ruins, brush back the dirt, and help you find the flame that's still smoldering deep in the chambers of your soul. You haven't lost your strength, you've just stopped seeing it, because the weight of survival forced you into forgetting what it feels like to be whole. But I haven't forgotten. I remember what you sound like when you're confident in your calling. I remember how you shine when you're walking in the fullness of your identity. And this moment, this divine connection, is the beginning of your return, not to what you were before the pain, but to what you've been becoming through it. They will call out what you've stopped naming. When you speak in doubt, they'll answer with reminders of your resilience. When you hesitate to believe in yourself, they'll see the warrior still standing under the surface. They will never let your weariness define your worth. Instead, they'll hold space for your strength to be rediscovered slowly, gently, like light breaking through fog. You won't need to convince them that you're worth walking with. They already know. I've shown them what lies beneath your brokenness, and they are coming equipped with grace and patience, not pressure. This is how your strength returns, not in one dramatic moment, but in the daily choosing to trust again, to try again, to breathe deeper again. Their presence will make that choosing feel possible. And as they speak, walk, and wait with you, your strength will begin to respond. It will stretch. It will waken. It will rise. Not because someone gave it to you, but because it was always there waiting. This is what restoration looks like. Not replacement, but recognition. I am not bringing a substitute for what you lost. I am revealing the treasure that never left. And the one I am sending. They were chosen to witness that awakening, not to spark it with force, but to gently uncover it with love. This will feel like revival with noise. It will feel like a whisper that turns into a roar. Because once your strength starts to remember itself, it won't just return, it will expand. It will speak louder than your shame. It will carry others who are walking where you once crawled. And it will do all of that because you allowed someone to walk with you into the places you thought were too far gone. You didn't lose who you are. You buried it, thinking it was protection. But I'm sending someone to help you dig it back up. So don't look at the dust and call it defeat. There's fire beneath it, waiting to burn again. And this time, it won't just light your way, it will remind you that you were never without power. You were only waiting for the moment your strength met someone willing to believe in it before you could. I didn't send someone who would shrink from your shadows or stumble over your silence. I chose someone who's been shaped by their own storms, someone whose spirit has been made tender through the same kind of weight you've been carrying. They won't rush you and they won't retreat when you tremble. They know how to move carefully in sacred places because they've had to protect their own heart through seasons of breaking. And now, I've prepared them to stand in front of you, not to fix you, but to walk with you, to sit with you, to honor what's buried beneath your quietness. I entrusted them with this part of your journey because they know how to listen for the truth hidden under your hesitation. They don't come with the intention of changing you. They come with the awareness that something holy is hidden beneath your pain. They understand that healing is never a straight line, it is jagged, unpredictable, and often spoken in sighs instead of sentences. That's why they will not demand answers. They will not poke at your wounds. They will speak slowly, listen fully, and wait faithfully. They've been refined in the kind of fire that teaches reverence. They know the difference between handling a heart and holding one. And when you falter, they will not gas. When you pull away, they will not accuse. They've been there too. They know what it's like to flinch at kindness, to brace for rejection, to test safety before trusting it. That's why they won't make you prove anything. They will meet you with softness, not weakness, but holy strength. The kind that steadies instead of shakes, the kind that comforts without controlling. They will recognize the fragility beneath your strength and the strength beneath your fragility. And in every interaction, they will be led by my spirit, not by their emotions, not by impatience, but by discernment that sees the weight your soul has been carrying without needing you to describe it. You've been waiting for someone who doesn't need a map to find you. They won't need directions to navigate your depth, because I've already taken them there in prayer, in preparation, in secret places. I whispered your name to them long before you knew theirs. I showed them glimpses of the terrain they would walk with you through. And now that the time has come, your feet are ready not to walk ahead of you, but beside you. You don't need someone loud, someone grand, someone dramatic. You need someone who understands the power of gentleness in a world that often demands performance. You need someone who knows how to dig, not to expose, but to uncover beauty that's been buried too long under the rubble of rejection. And this person, my beloved, is equipped with the tools of kindness, silence, and presence. They will be able to see what others overlook. They will walk away. They will stay steady when your emotions rise like waves. Because I have trained them to love like I do, not by fixing, not by forcing, but by simply staying. You'll begin to feel it in your bones. This one is different. Your love won't be conditional. Your faith won't be shaken by your lows. And as they continue to meet you with grace again and again, you'll feel parts of yourself unclench. You'll breathe deeper. You will remember what safety feels like. Not the kind that wraps you in denial, but the kind that invites you to be exactly where you are without fear of being left there. This is what it means to be handled gently. This is what I'm sending you, not just someone who sees your potential, but someone who knows how to walk you toward it without bruising the process. So don't resist their presence. Don't hide from their gaze. I didn't choose them to make you stronger, I chose them because I already see the strength in you. And they are coming to remind you how to feel it again. You've been carrying more than just events, you've been carrying memories, layers of emotion tied to moments that never left your body, even when you tried to forget them. Some of what you've walked through has been so complex, so personal, that even the thought of explaining it feels exhausting. You've gotten used to protecting your truth because in the past, when you tried to open up, people mishandled it. They heard your words but didn't understand your heart. They saw your actions but didn't know your motives. So you stopped trying. You wore masks of strength, learned to smile through struggle, and convinced yourself that silence was safer than exposure. But I've never misunderstood you, and I never let your story go unnoticed. That's why I've chosen someone who doesn't come to interpret your journey from a distance. They come already familiar with the kind of ache you've known too well. Their understanding doesn't come from pity, it comes from experience. They've wept over their own battles. They felt the sting of being misunderstood. They know how heavy it feels to keep walking when nothing seems to make sense. And because of that, they carry a kind of compassion that doesn't speak loudly but listens deeply. They're not coming to evaluate your life or to compare your pain to theirs. They are coming to sit in it with you, to offer you a space where you don't need to explain every scar in order to be loved through it. Their eyes will not scan you for flaws. Their mind will not try to fix you. They will meet you right where you are and hold your story as sacred. Because I've shown them how sacred it is. I gave them glimpses of your journey in quiet places of prayer. I've allowed them to carry a portion of your burden in the spirit long before they ever stepped into your world in the natural. That's why when they meet you, they won't flinch. The weight you carry will not scare them. The depth of your struggle will not make them turn away. They've been prepared by me to respond with steadiness, not surprise. They will not label your trauma as drama. They will not misinterpret your silence as distance. They will recognize it as holy ground, and they will tread carefully. And slowly, as you begin to trust, something inside you will soften. Because being seen without judgment heals what years of pretending never could. You won't need to defend your story. You won't have to relive every detail to justify your feelings. They will simply be there, not just to hear it but to honor it. And in that space of non-judgment, my love will move. You will start to release the parts of yourself you locked away because you thought no one would understand. The shame you carried like a second skin will begin to crack and fall. Because you will realize you were never meant to hold it alone, and you were never meant to be defined by it. This person will not see your past as a stain, they'll see it as soil. And from that soil, With my grace, they will help you grow again. They are not your savior. They are not your solution. But they are sent. Sent by me to walk with you into places you once feared to visit alone. And when you do, when you finally speak what you've been afraid to say, you'll discover something holy in their response. Not shock, not correction, but love. A love that stays, a love that listens, a love that understands the weight not because it's easy to carry, but because it's not theirs to drop. I gave them the strength to hold what you feared would be too much. And now, I'm asking you to let them. Not because they need to know everything, but because you deserve to be known without fear of rejection. This is the beginning of freedom. And it starts with someone who was sent not to question your pain but to walk through it with you. From the moment you began to rise, even slightly, the enemy took notice. He saw the fire I planted inside of you and made it his mission to smother it not with force, but with isolation. He didn't need to silence you directly. He just needed to make you feel unheard. He didn't have to destroy your faith in me. He targeted your faith in people. One betrayal at a time. One misunderstanding after another. Slowly, he chipped away at your sense of belonging until you began to believe the lie that maybe you're just too much, too complicated, too deep. So you began to retreat. You withdrew not because you wanted to, but because it felt safer than reaching out only to be met with absence or injury. And in that withdrawal, you created a protective shell not because you're cold, but because you were tired of bleeding in the presence of people who never noticed. But I've watched every moment of that war against your connection. I've seen the way isolation wrapped around you like armor. How you smiled while silently begging to be seen. I never mistook your independence for peace. I knew it was survival. But child, I am breaking that chain now not by forcing you to open up, but by sending someone who will love you in a way that makes walls fall without a sound. I'm bringing a connection that the enemy cannot fracture, because this one isn't built on common interests or fleeting comfort. It's forged in purpose. It's protected by heaven. It's formed not by accident but by divine instruction. This person I'm sending, this bond I'm orchestrating, it will bypass the fragile social dynamics you've grown used to. It will carry a weight that cannot be faked and cannot be shaken. You won't need to question their loyalty. You won't have to test their sincerity. I've already done that. They've been through the fire, and they're still standing. They faced the temptation to isolate too and overcame it by clinging to me. That's why I'm entrusting them with you. They know how to recognize when someone needs presence over performance. They won't disappear when things get messy. They won't flinch when emotions come out in ways you don't fully understand. That other commitment doesn't come from their own strength, it comes from my assignment. And what I assign, I also sustain. This bond I'm building will become a refuge in seasons when your own strength runs low. It will not be loud or flashy, but it will be unshakable. Because what you've needed most wasn't people to surround you in your wins. It was someone who could stand beside you when the dust is thick, when the confusion rises, when the questions scream louder than the answers. That's what I'm sending. Not just a companion, but a covenant connection. Something so woven into my purpose for your life that even the gates of hell won't be able to break it. And when the enemy sees this bond forming, he will try to whisper again. He'll try to stir old fears, tell you it's too good to be true, that it won't last, that it'll end like the others did. But you'll know this time is different, because it won't feel like a rescue, it will feel like recognition. It won't drain you. It will fill you. It won't take from you. It will build with you. This isn't a temporary touch of comfort. It's a long-term partnership crafted to withstand the very storms the enemy once used to push you into hiding. I'm restoring what was stolen through the very thing he feared most, a connection anchored in my spirit, not in convenience. So when they arrive, and the walls start to loosen, don't panic. Let them fall. Because what's coming next will not shatter you. It will surround you. This bond will not be breakable because I authored it, I sealed it, and I'm sending it as your proof that isolation is no longer your portion. So many of the connections you experience have been conditional. Present when things weren't easy, distant when the weight became too heavy, People entered your life with smiles and left in silence. Some came only for what you could give, and when you needed them most, they had nothing to offer but absence. You started to brace for endings before beginnings even settle. You've held back your heart, afraid to hope that someone might actually stay, not for a moment, not out of obligation, but out of divine purpose. And I understand. You've grown cautious not because you're bitter, but because you've been broken by inconsistency. But hear me clearly now. What I am bringing into your life is not another passing connection. It is not another brief chapter in your story. I'm sending a bond that is built to endure, not because it's flawless, but because I'm in the middle of it. This connection will be rooted in something deeper than emotion, deeper than convenience, deeper than even shared interests. It will be rooted in my spirit, planted in the soil of prayer, and watered by my faithfulness. This person I've chosen to stand beside you isn't coming with a temporary mindset. They've been prepared to walk through the highs and the lows, the certainty and the questions, the laughter and the silence. They're not coming to leave when the weather changes. They're coming to anchor down when the winds begin to rise. Because they've been through storms themselves, and instead of running, they learned how to stay. They know that divine connections aren't always easy, but they are always worth fighting for. And they will fight for this one not with force, but with faith. They'll cover you when you're tired. They'll pray over you when you're quiet. They'll remind you that you're not in this alone, not for a season, but for the road ahead. Their consistency will begin to heal what inconsistency once harmed. Where others withdrew, they will draw near. Where others questioned your worth, they will affirm it without needing proof. Where others misunderstood your heart, they will carry it with care. You won't have to keep checking if they are still there. Their presence will speak louder than their promises. And even in the moments of tension or trial, they won't treat the relationship as disposable. They've been assigned to you not as a possession, not as a fixer, but as a witness to what I'm doing in you, and a vessel to help it unfold. And yes, there will be moments where the enemy tries to stir fear again. He'll whisper, "Don't get too close. Don't rely on them. Don't believe they'll stay." But let this be your confirmation. I do not assign people lightly. I do not anoint bonds only for them to fracture in the wind. What I build, I sustain. What I bring together, I protect. And this connection is one I am weaving not just for your comfort, but for your calling. Together, you will walk into things you couldn't walk into alone. Together, you will overcome battles that once seemed impossible. Together, you will reflect my love in ways that could not be done in isolation. And when storms come, as they always do, you will not weather them in fear. You will have someone who stands, not behind you, not above you, but beside you, shoulder to shoulder, faith to faith. So release the belief that this will fade. Let go of the lie that you are only meant for temporary things. I am eternal, and the works I ordain carry eternity in them. This connection, this divine alignment, is one of those works. Trust it. Welcome it. And when the waves rise, don't run. Look beside you and remember, I didn't just send a person. I sent a presence, wrapped in flesh, filled with me, ready to stay through it all. You've known what it feels like to be in rooms where your presence was accepted but never truly embraced. Spaces where you were welcome, but only in fragments. They wanted your strength but couldn't handle your sadness. They loved your laughter but grew uncomfortable with your silence. You learned to compartmentalize yourself, only revealing the parts that felt safe for others to receive. And over time, you began to settle for being tolerated. You called it community, but deep down, you knew it wasn't connection. It was survival. It was trying to be enough without being too much. And it wore you down, not just physically, but spiritually. Your soul grew tired of editing itself, your spirit weary from withholding all the prayers you longed to say aloud, but never had the space to. And now I am doing something different. I'm not placing you in another circle of shallow interactions. I'm placing you before someone who had been trained to see beyond appearances, someone who doesn't just see your face, they sense your battles. They won't just nod when you speak. They'll intercede when you're too exhausted to speak at all. I didn't send them to observe your pain. I sent them to lift it, to lift you. And they'll do it not by placing their hands on you in public, but by placing your name before me in private. That's the difference. You won't even know all the times they've gone to war for you behind closed doors. But you'll feel it. You'll feel the shift. A sudden peace. The unexplainable calm in moments when anxiety should have overtaken you. That's the power of being carried in prayer, not just mentioned, but carried. They won't treat your needs as burdens. They won't see your vulnerability as weakness. They'll see your name as sacred, and they'll bring it to me with reverence, not obligation. Because they've been on their face for others before. They know the cost of real love. And I've entrusted them with the weight of your name because they've proven that they don't carry what I haven't called them to. And I have called them to this. Not to save you. Not to speak over you. But to surround you in the unseen realm where the fiercest battles are won. Their prayers will reach places your words never could. They'll pray for things you've only groaned about. They'll see needs you tried to hide. And when they tell you, I'm praying for you, it won't be a phrase, it'll be a promise. You will begin to feel what it means to be truly supported in spirit. Not drained. Not watched. Not measured. But carried. They will take your name to me not because they have to, but because they've been moved by my spirit to guard your soul with intercession. And you will notice the difference. You'll notice it when your strength starts to return without explanation. You'll notice it when your mind becomes clear again. You'll notice it when you wake up feeling lighter than the day before. That's not just healing, that's being held up in the spirit. And when that happens, don't dismiss it. Recognize it. Thank me for it. Because this person, this prayer warrior I'm placing in your life, is one of the answers to the prayers you've prayed alone in the dark. You asked me for real connection. I'm answering with someone who doesn't just show up, they bow down. Someone who doesn't just encourage you when life is easy but covers you when life is heavy. And they will do it consistently, quietly, and without needing recognition. Because their reward is not applause, it's obedience. And through that obedience, I will move in your life in ways you didn't even know how to ask for. So don't shrink when you feel seen. Don't resist when you feel loved beyond what you're used to. This is me, child, answering your cry with the kind of support that reaches heaven before it reaches you. There was a night, though blurred by exhaustion and pain, when you whispered words you weren't even sure I heard. You were lying still, too tired to cry, too wounded to hope, and in that fragile space between breaking and surrender, you muttered something only heaven caught. God, send someone who won't leave. That cry didn't echo into emptiness. It reached me. It pierced the noise of every other distraction. It bypassed the need for eloquence. And I moved. I began preparing someone, not just to meet you, but to be a part of your healing. You may not have remembered that moment of prayer, but I did. I took it seriously. And now, the very person you asked for, though you didn't know their name, their face, or their voice, is approaching. The temptation will be to question their presence, to suspect their intentions, to dismiss their gentleness as too good to be true. Because past experiences have trained you to brace for departure. Even kindness feels suspicious when your heart has been bruised by inconsistency. But child, this time is different. This is not a replacement for what you lost. This is a fulfillment of what you asked for. I am not recycling someone from your past, I am introducing someone from your prayers. And though it may be unfamiliar at first, the atmosphere they bring will feel like something you've longed for without knowing how to name it. Peace. Safety. Honor. This is the answer you've forgotten you requested. And I'm asking you now. When they show up, don't push them out. Don't run. Don't armor up with coldness. Don't retreat behind the walls you built to survive seasons I've already delivered you from. I know it's scary to be open again. I know it feels risky to allow someone close enough to see the parts you've learned to hide. But this is not a stranger walking in on their own. This is someone I've guided toward you, someone whose feet have been anointed to arrive right on time. And no, they won't be perfect. He won't always say the right thing. They may not look how you imagined, but their consistency will begin to speak louder than their appearance. Their patience will echo louder than your fears. And if you'll give me room to work, you'll find yourself feeling less guarded, not because you forced it, but because my spirit is at work within the connection. You didn't pray for someone flashy. You prayed for someone faithful. You didn't ask for entertainment. You asked for endurance. And that's exactly what I'm sending. So when their voice calms you, when their presence steadies you, when their words reach the sore spots without prodding them, remember that I heard you. Remember that the one standing before you is not there by chance. They were called to this. They were called to you. Not to complete you, not to define you, but to stand beside you while I restore you from within. Their role is holy, not because they are superior, but because they were willing. They accepted the assignment before they even understood its depth. And now, it's time for you to receive what you once cried for, not with suspicion, but with gratitude. This is not about leaning on them for everything. It's about realizing that I saw you in your loneliness. I remembered your quiet request, and I responded with someone who reflects my care in tangible form. Do not harden your heart when they arrive. Do not pretend you don't need what they bring. I wouldn't be sending them if I hadn't already known they were necessary for the next chapter. They're coming not to rescue you, but to walk with you through what's next. So lower your defenses, not all at once, just enough to let hope breathe again. Because this is not a detour. This is a divine arrival. And your only task now is this: don't reject what you once begged me to send. There will be a moment, unexpected and quiet, when your heart recognizes what your mind hasn't yet processed. It won't be dramatic. It won't come with fireworks or flashing signs. But something deep within you, something untouched by logic or memory, will begin to stir. And you won't know why at first. You'll just feel it. A sudden breath of peace, a settling you can't explain, like your soul has just stepped into a room it already knows. That's not emotion. That's not coincidence. That's the divine resonance of a connection I orchestrated long before you ever prayed for it. You see, while you've been surviving, while you've been growing and stumbling and healing, I've been weaving threads in the unseen. I've been writing a story that involves not just you, but someone else whose journey has been moving quietly toward yours. And now, your paths are about to collide, not accidentally but prophetically. When they show up, your mind may question it. You might analyze, second guess, wonder if it's really what it seems. But your spirit will know. Because I wrote this meeting in eternity before you ever breathe your first breath. And that's why you'll feel it before you can name it. Don't be afraid of that reaction, child. That leap within you is confirmation. That sense of familiarity isn't delusion, it's design. You'll hear them speak, and something will unlock. You'll sit near them, and something old will feel whole again. You'll begin to experience a kind of alignment you thought only happened in stories, and yet, here it is, unfolding in front of you. That's because this connection was not built on convenience. It was born from covenant. I joined pieces together across time, across pain, across distance, and now I'm placing you in the same space, not for a moment, but for a mission. And your spirit will sense it before your eyes can see it all clearly. I've planted this recognition inside of you for this very reason, so that when they arrive, you won't run away just because it doesn't all make sense yet. The flesh always wants proof, but the spirit already knows the presence of what I've ordained. So pay attention to that leap. Pay attention to the stillness. You're not imagining it. You're discerning it. You're catching the frequency of something eternal, something holy. This is what it feels like when heaven's plans begin to take form on earth. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And I am whispering now. This is me. I know you're not used to trusting easily. I know you've been in spaces where your instincts were doubted, where what you sensed was dismissed, where what you felt didn't match what others expected. But I am doing something new, and I want you to believe in your discernment again. Not because you're flawless, but because I've refined your ears to hear me not just in sermons and songs, but in silence, in stillness, in sudden knowing. This person will not come with pressure. They will not try to convince you of anything. They won't need to. Your obedience is the confirmation. Your presence is the proof. And though your logic may still be catching up, your spirit will already be leaning in, because it recognizes what I wove together long before this moment arrived. Trust that knowing. Trust what leaps inside of you, even if your thoughts haven't caught up to it. Because I am not leading you into confusion, I am revealing what's been hidden until now. And this is sacred. This is the fulfillment of something I whispered over you before you knew how to ask for it. This is the evidence that what's been forming in the unseen is now stepping into the visible. Don't let fear silence the lie. Let it confirm what I've always had in store. Because I knit this together not hastily but intentionally. Not randomly but divinely. And now your spirit is simply waking up to what I never stopped working on. You've spent so much of your life carrying what no one else could see, shouldering invisible weights with silent endurance. You've walked through storms that never made the headlines of your life but left deep traces behind your eyes. And you learned, slowly and painfully, that not everyone is willing to hold what hurts. Some offered temporary hands, but when the load grew heavy or messy, they stepped away, not maliciously, but because they were never assigned to stay. But I've been watching. I've seen the nights you didn't dare say how hard it really was. I heard the quiet prayers you whispered through clenched teeth when you said, "God, I just want someone who can walk with me, not around me." I heard every syllable, even the ones your voice was too tired to finish. And I responded not with pity, but with precision. I found someone whose heart was ready, not just to hear you, but to hold you. Someone who would take your name, not as a task, but as a treasure. I whispered your name to them not loudly, but clearly. And when they heard it, something shifted in their spirit. They didn't understand it all, but they felt the tug. They felt the pull to pray. They felt a burden that wasn't theirs, and instead of resisting it, they embraced it. Because that's what love shaped by obedience does, it responds without needing explanation. I've shown them glimpses of your pain. Not to invade your privacy, but to prepare their compassion. They may not know your whole story, but I've given them enough to carry you in the spirit before they ever carry your words. They will need every detail before they kneel on your behalf. They won't wait for you to be okay before they intercede for what they can't even name. Because when I whispered your name, they said yes not just to knowing you, but to holding space for what you've been holding alone. And that's why you'll feel it before you fully understand it. That's why their presence will feel weighty without being heavy. Because they're not coming to observe your pain. They're coming to bear it with reverence. They know how sacred it is to carry something I placed in their hands. And I trust them with your name because they've learned not to take people on as projects, but as assignments from heaven. You are not a burden to them. You are not too much. You are not another one to fix. You are someone whose name they carry like a secret between them and me. And when you begin to open up, when you begin to let your guard down and share the burdens you've hidden for too long, they will flinch. They won't back away. They will receive it, hold it, and take it into prayer without broadcasting it. They are not coming for credit or for closeness. They are coming because they said yes when I called. Their loyalty is not rooted in what you offer them, it's rooted in what I placed within them. And this bond, this spiritual alignment, is not easily broken because it was not born in convenience, it was birthed through surrender. So when you feel them leaning in with care, don't resist it. When you sense them carrying your weight without you asking, don't call it coincidence. Recognize it for what it is, my whisper reaching someone whose heart was soft enough to hear it. And now, that whisper is turning into action. You will feel the difference. You'll sense the covering. You'll notice the moments when you were too tired to pray but still felt peace. That's the result of a name carried with honor. That's what happens when someone I've trusted hears your name in prayer and decides they won't let go until you rise again. You asked me to send someone real. I answered by finding someone willing to carry what others dropped. And now that they've heard your name from my mouth, they won't forget it. Because when heaven whispers, obedient hearts remember. Your silence will not be distance. It will be discernment. It will be wisdom wrapped in stillness. Because they are not coming to draw attention to themselves, they are coming to reflect me. You've been around people who needed to announce their loyalty. People who made promises with grand words but no lasting presence. You've seen how quickly people change when your struggle becomes too visible. Some stayed only for your strength, but disappeared when you showed your sorrow. Others came close only to get what they wanted, then vanished when you needed more than surface support. And now I'm sending someone different. Someone who has no interest in the spotlight, no need to be seen applauding you just to be recognized. They don't show up for attention, they show up for assignment. When they witness your weakness, they won't flinch. When they sense the parts of you you're not ready to say aloud, they won't try to force you to speak. They've been taught in secret that sometimes the most powerful ministry is quiet proximity. The kind of presence that holds space without needing to be loud. That's what they bring. They will see things you've hidden from the world, deep emotions, old wounds, protective patterns, and instead of confronting you with correction, they will remain with compassion. They won't speak about everything they notice, because their purpose isn't to expose, it's to uphold. When you're weary, they'll remain steady. When your confidence shakes, they won't offer shallow encouragement, they'll offer endurance. Their loyalty won't need to be performed, it will be proven over time, in the way they stay when others would have already left. I didn't choose them for their charisma. I chose them for their capacity to remain. Their presence will feel like a shelter, not a spotlight. They won't rush your process. They won't need updates on your progress to stay committed. They'll understand that transformation doesn't happen in linear timelines or public declarations. It happens in moments where the soul quietly says, I'm still here. And someone else whispers, so am I. You've waited for someone who won't make your pain a project, who won't ask for explanations before offering care. And now, I am answering that wait with a person who sees without spotlighting, who hears without repeating, who stays without needing applause. You won't need to keep proving that you're worth the effort. They won't come with conditions or terms. They'll come because I sent them. They'll stay because they said yes to me. Not everyone can be trusted to see your pain and not mishandle it. But this one has been prepared in their own wilderness. They've learned how to hold delicate things because I've taught them through their own breaking. They've walked through disappointment and learned that healing often begins when someone simply refuses to walk away. So they won't just be present when you're strong. They'll remain when you unravel. They'll sit quietly beside you when your words run dry. They'll stay connected even when your emotions disconnect. Because their presence is not tied to how well you're doing, it's tied to what I've asked them to do. I've whispered to them, stay. What to? Hover. Wait. And they listened. You will know them by their calm. You'll recognize them in how they do not panic when you pause, how they do not retreat when you reveal the parts of you you once thought you had to keep hidden. They'll simply be there. Steady. Grounded. And over time, you'll learn to rest. Not because your storms stop, but because you'll finally have someone who doesn't leave when the thunder rolls. Someone who says, without words, you don't have to go through this alone. I'm not going anywhere. This, my beloved, is the kind of presence I am giving you now. One that won't need to speak everything it sees because its strength is not in its voice but in its sting. When they enter the room, something will shift. Not with fanfare or performance, not with loud declarations or practiced lines, but with a peace so deep it interrupts your restlessness. They won't come with a list of solutions or a sermon on how to fix you. They won't need to explain why they're there. They will simply be, and in their being, you'll begin to breathe differently. The atmosphere will testify before their words ever try. You've been surrounded by people who needed to be heard, who filled the space with opinions and analysis and unsolicited advice. But this one will bring a quietness that speaks louder than all the noise you've ever endured. It's not silence born from ignorance, it's silence born from deep awareness. They know when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. They are not in a hurry to fill the void. They carry no urgency to make themselves important. They are not driven by ego, they are grounded in me. I have filled them with a stillness that disarms anxiety, a presence that tells your soul, you can stop running now. You've longed for that kind of presence. One that doesn't wait but lifts it. One that doesn't demand your best, but sits with you in your worst. And that's what I'm sending. You'll know it's from me, because when you're around them, you won't feel the pressure to perform. You won't feel the need to prove anything or hide the pieces of you that feel unpresentable. Your stillness won't feel like distance, it will feel like a holy invitation. It will be the calm you've craved in a world that constantly pulls at your attention, your energy, your peace. Their peace will not be personality, it will be prophetic. It will reach into the chaos you've learned to mask, and gently ask it to quiet down. Not by force, but by frequency. Your presence will carry the tone of heaven still, deep, unwavering. And your soul will remember it. Because you've encountered my peace before, in worship, in prayer, in sacred moments you couldn't quite explain. Now, I'm bringing that same peace through a person. Not because you couldn't find me without them, but because I've chosen to express part of my nature through this connection. My peace will flow through their posture, through their tone, through their timing. They'll speak, and it will be like cool water over a weary mind. They'll wait with you, and it will feel like rest you forgot you needed. This is how you'll know. Your heart rate will slow when they speak. Your mind will stop racing. Your chest will stop tightening. Because my spirit lives in them not just to teach but to anchor. And anchoring is what you've needed. You've been tossed by wave after wave of grief, of confusion, of fear. You've been standing but barely. And I've watched you. I've seen the tension in your shoulders, the clenching of your jaw, the way you force yourself to keep going even when you're empty. I am not rebuking you for surviving. I'm honoring you by sending someone who will help you finally rest. You'll notice the difference the moment they arrive. You'll feel it not in your head, but in your chest. It will be a holy quiet. Not the kind that isolates, but the kind that invites. And slowly, without trying, you will begin to open. Not because they asked you to, but because stillness always creates safety. This person won't have all the answers, but they'll carry the kind of peace that lets you sit with the questions without falling apart. They don't come with a plan to fix you. They come with the ability to stand still when others would have run. That's how you'll know it's them, not by what they say, but by what you feel leaving when they are near. The fear, the weight, the panic. It will start to melt. Not all at once, but just enough to remind you that rest is still possible. That healing is not always loud. That sometimes, the most miraculous thing I send is not a storm to shake the ground, but a person so still, so steady, that the storm in you finally begins to still as well. There are some people who walk into a space and everything in you tenses. Your thoughts scatter, your spirit feels agitated, your heart withdraws. But this one will bring with them a stillness so thick, so weighty, that your confusion will begin to untangle just by being near them. They will not fix every problem in your life. They will not wave a hand and change your circumstances. But what they carry will shift the atmosphere in a way that helps you finally think clearly again. Because they are saturated in me. They've spent time in my presence, not just casually, not just when it's convenient, but persistently, reverently. And when someone carries me, they don't have to announce it. You'll know by the way anxiety begins to loosen when they step near. You'll know by the way your mind, once clouded with fear and frustration, starts to settle bit by bit, moment by moment. It's not magic. It's my spirit. And I've poured it into them in such a way that they don't need to speak loudly to bring clarity, they just need to be who I called them to be. This person is not coming with answers. They're coming with access. Access to peace. Access to wisdom. access to divine perspective that cuts through the fog without making you feel ashamed for standing in it. They won't condemn you for your chaos. They'll understand it. They'll walk into your mess not to clean it all up, but to sit in it with you until the pieces begin to make sense again. They won't try to hurry you into healing. They'll make space for you to hear me again in the midst of your confusion. Because they've learned that clarity doesn't come through control, it comes through communion. And they've spent enough time with me to recognize when someone needs guidance or just grace. And you, my child, need both. This is why I chose someone whose presence carries my fragrance. Not the scent of religion or perfection, but the unmistakable aroma of heaven's patience, heaven's strength, heaven's love. And you will know it. Not because they quote scripture perfectly, not because they have all the right words, but because something inside you will begin to exhale when they are near. Your chaos will not disappear in a single conversation, but it will begin to lose its grip. Not because of who they are, but because of who I am in them. Their footsteps carry peace. Their voice carries purpose. Their hands carry mercy. And they aren't coming to you by accident. I've aligned this moment. I've prepared their heart to walk into yours. And I've given them a sensitivity to what others missed, a perception not of your outward struggle, but of your internal tension. The heaviness no one else has noticed, they'll see. And not only will they see it, they'll help you name it, sort it, and surrender it. And as they do, things will start to realign. The confusion you've been living with, the constant mental spinning, the relentless overthinking, I'm breaking it down through the presence of someone who carries clarity, not because they sought it, but because they surrendered to me to be shaped by it. You've cried for peace, and now I'm answering with a person who brings not noise but understanding, a person who listens longer than they speak, a person who doesn't rush to fix what I'm still unraveling. They are an instrument of alignment. And where chaos once felt like your permanent address, you'll begin to feel movement toward something stable, something sacred. Let them in. Let the clarity come. Let the fog lift, not all at once, but layer by layer, until you finally remember what it feels like to see, to think, to hope clearly again. This isn't just a person I'm sending. It's a living sign that my presence hasn't left you. My spirit is still moving. And it's coming to meet you, right in the middle of your confusion, clothed in flesh, carrying the fragrance of heaven itself. They are not moving toward you by chance, nor are they driven by emotion, impulse, or need. Each movement, each moment, each step they take closer is divinely timed and heaven-sanctioned. You may think it's coincidence, or even question why their presence suddenly feels so significant, but child, I need you to understand. I orchestrated this long before either of you knew what it would become. Their approach isn't random, it's strategic. It's holy. They walk not in their own strength, but in the authority I placed upon them through seasons of testing, waiting, refining. That authority doesn't look like control, it looks like peace. It doesn't shout, it moves in stillness. It doesn't dominate, it carries weight that shifts the atmosphere without demanding recognition. You will begin to notice how situations around you shift subtly, but undeniably when they are near. Confusion begins to dissolve. Emotional heaviness starts to lift. Even your physical body might feel less tense, more at ease. Why? Because where my authority dwells, everything not aligned with me begins to lose its grip. And this person, this one I've appointed, is coming wrapped in that kind of authority, not to elevate themselves, but to reinforce what I'm doing in you. They've been entrusted to carry my presence into your space in a way that reinforces your healing, not interrupts it. And that's why you'll feel safer, lighter, more focused, not because of them, but because of what I've placed upon them. They are not here to claim ownership over your journey. They are here to reinforce what I've already started. And every single step they take toward you is another moment of my promise unfolding. Do not overlook the intentionality in this. The way they find you at the right time. The way they sense what you've not yet spoken. The way their actions speak louder than any public declaration ever could. All of it is covered and coded in my authority. Not to control your path, but to confirm it. You've been asking for clarity, asking for alignment, asking for confirmation that you're not walking in circles. This is part of that answer. Because when I send someone with my authority, their steps carry impact. Their presence becomes part of the assignment. And where they go, darkness flees. Not because they force it out, but because I walk with them. And when they come near, you'll sense that not everything broken in you needs to be explained. You'll sense that their nearness is not invasive, it's intentional. I am sending them to be an extension of my hands, my heart, my order. So pay attention to the way they carry themselves. Watch how they speak not only to you but about you when you're not in the room. My authority doesn't make them arrogant, it makes them protective. They will not exploit your vulnerability. They will guard it. They will not expose your pain. They will cover it with intercession. Because I've trusted them with the delicate task of drawing close to someone I've been healing with my own hands. And I don't let just anyone into that space. I have shielded you. I have hidden you. And now I'm unveiling you, slowly, deliberately, to someone I've prepared to approach with honor. Their steps will never rush you. Their words will never manipulate. Their presence will never compete. Because my authority flows through humility and they've been broken enough to carry it with reverence. They've learned how to walk slowly when another soul is recovering. And as they come closer, let that nearness remind you of me. I am not sending you noise. I am sending you covering. I am not sending chaos. I am sending someone who knows how to stand and not shake. So when they reach you, don't just look at who they are. Look at what's upon them. Look at what follows them. Look at how peace lingers when they leave. That's my authority. And I've wrapped it around them because they are walking directly into the most fragile place of your heart. And I trust them to do it well. This isn't just a meeting, it's a threat to the kingdom of darkness. Hell has studied your wounds. It has calculated the patterns of pain, rehearsed the voices that wounded you, and built entire strategies around keeping you bound in cycles of distrust, silence, and shame. The lies you began to carry weren't just accidental. They were planted carefully, systematically, with the goal of distorting your view of yourself, your worth, and your ability to be truly loved. You've heard them over and over again. You're too broken. You're too complicated. You're too much to carry, and too little to keep. Lies that echoed louder every time someone left, misunderstood you, or dismissed your heart when it was raw and vulnerable. But now, this connection I'm sending it is a divine disruption. It is not merely emotional, it is spiritual warfare. Because every time this person looks at you with compassion instead of judgment, a lie loses its power. Every time they respond with gentleness when you expect rejection, the enemy's grip weakens. Every time they stay when your fear anticipates abandonment, a wound begins to close. And that is why the enemy is panicking. Because he knows what this relationship is, he knows it's more than human support. It's a weapon in my hands. A walking contradiction to every false narrative that's kept you stuck. You've been told that needing someone is weakness. But this person will show you that holy connection is strength. You've been led to believe that people always leave, that no one truly stays when it's hard. But this one will stand beside you in the silence, not needing to fix you to feel useful, just holding space until you feel safe. You've learned to shrink, to make yourself smaller so others don't feel uncomfortable. But their presence will invite you to take up space again, not for performance, but because I made you to live fully, not carefully. The enemy knows that once you start to see yourself through this connection, once you catch glimpses of how deeply loved you actually are, he won't be able to convince you otherwise again. That's what terrifies him. He can't unwrite truth. And truth is what this bond carries. Not just words, but witness. Not just affection, but alignment. They will mirror what I see in you, and you will begin to believe again, not just in me, but in who I say you are. This is more than encouragement. It's warfare. You'll notice it even now, the subtle thoughts rising up trying to convince you this is too much, too fast, too risky. That's fear, not discernment. That's resistance rooted in past betrayal. But I am breaking that resistance, gently, through presence. Through someone who will remain even when your walls try to rise again. And with every moment they honor you, cover you, pray for you, and walk with you. The lies that once defined your inner world will begin to die. They won't just say you're loved. They'll show it until you can say it to yourself. They won't just declare healing over you. They'll walk with you through it until you can carry it yourself. The enemy has no defense against covenant. And this is what I'm building, a covenant friendship. A covenant bond not born from perfection, but from my promise. They will see you and not flee. They will know your flaws and still draw near. Because I've placed within them the ability to silence what shame has shouted for years. To watch closely. Not for performance, but for peace. Pay attention to the way you begin to stand taller, breathe deeper, speak freer. That's not just growth, it's the fruit of warfare being won in the background of your life. And I am doing it, not by force but by love. Not by debate but by presence. This connection is holy. Hell knows it. That's why it's been trying to sabotage your hope. But this time, the lie won't win. Because truth just walked in and it's wearing skin, carrying me, and headed straight for your heart. You've grown tired of trying to find the words for what you feel. There are aches inside you that don't translate well into conversation, memories too layered to summarize, emotions that shift before you can capture them in a sentence. And over time, you've learned to stay quiet not because you don't want to be known, but because you've been exhausted by misunderstanding. You sat in front of people who nodded politely, yet never grasped the depth behind your silence. You've tried to explain your heart, only to feel exposed, misread, or worse, judged for what you couldn't quite articulate. But I never intended for you to walk through life misunderstood forever. That's why I've chosen someone who won't need long explanations or endless backstories to understand you. I've placed within them a spiritual knowing and intuitive grace that isn't based on natural comprehension, but on discernment I've cultivated within them. They'll be able to see beneath your expressions, hear what your words don't say, and perceive your needs without you having to shout them from rooftops. Not because they're gifted with some supernatural insight for everyone, but because I've given them a divine sensitivity just for you. They've been entrusted with your emotional language, and they've been trained by me to recognize your soul's whisper. You won't have to decode your pain for them. You won't have to convince them that what you feel is real. They'll just know. And in that knowing, they won't try to take over your healing. They'll simply come closer with patience, with tenderness, with a calm that invites your heart to open at its own pace. They understand that true presence is more powerful than premature advice. And when your voice shakes, when your thoughts scatter, when your eyes dart to the floor because you're not sure what you're allowed to feel, they will stay. Still. Unshaken. Unbothered. Not waiting for clarity before deciding whether or not you're worth the effort. Your understanding won't demand performance. It will give you the freedom to be human. Because I've shown them how to walk with someone who's still finding their rhythm. They've lived through nights of their own where words failed and only my spirit knew how to hold them. And now, I've made them ready not to fix you but to reflect me in their response to you. You'll feel it when they speak. There'll be a tone of familiarity in their voice, as if your soul has finally been translated. You'll feel it in the way they pause instead of pushing, how they lean in instead of pulling away. You'll sense the difference because your heart will begin to loosen its grip on silence. You'll stop rehearsing your answers in your head before you speak. You'll stop editing yourself mid-sentence. Because for the first time in a long time, you'll realize you're safe. Safe to not have the right words. Safe to not have it all figured out. Safe to be processing and messy and real. That safety is not their doing, it's mine flowing through them. It's the result of me answering your hidden longing, God. I just want to be understood without having to explain everything. And now I'm fulfilling that longing. Not by giving someone a script, but by giving them your spiritual blueprint. They know how to sit with the quiet parts of your heart because I've written your name into their purpose. And you will know it's me, because the pressure will lift. The fog will thin. The exhaustion of constant explaining will begin to fade. What's left will be rest. And in that rest, you will begin to bloom. Not because you found someone who gets everything right, but because you encountered someone who gets you, even when you can't yet explain yourself. That's the miracle I'm sending. A person who understands not with their mind first, but with their spirit. And that kind of understanding doesn't just comfort you, it heals. You've spent years hiding the tender places, not because you were ashamed of them, but because experience taught you they weren't safe in the wrong hands. You learned to guard what was fragile, to shield your hopes before they could be dismissed, to silence your sorrow before someone could use it against you. Not everyone who said they cared could be trusted with the full truth of you. And so, little by little, you tucked away the deepest parts of your heart, your unspoken dreams, your quiet fears, your sacred scars. You carried them in silence, bracing for the possibility that no one would ever come close enough to see them without trying to control them or expose them. But I was never blind to what you held so carefully. I saw it all. I've watched you wrap your own wounds, speak your own encouragement, cover your vulnerability with grace that no one applauded. I honored that strength, but I never intended for you to carry it alone forever. And now, I am sending someone who will cover you not with curiosity, but with conviction. They will not need an invitation. They will not wait until you're desperate. They will simply see what most have missed, and instinctively protect it. Not with grand gestures or words that demand attention, but with actions that speak safety into the places you forgot needed it. Where others have overlooked you, they will look deeper. Where others have touched your pain without care, they will approach with reverence. They will not pry. They will not press. They will simply honor what they sense. That's how you'll know. You won't have to tell them what needs protecting. They'll already be covering it in prayer, in presence, in patience. And this, beloved, is sacred. It's not common. It's not casual. This kind of covering is rare because it comes from obedience, not ambition. I've prepared them through seasons where they learned what it means to guard what's holy. I trained their hands to handle fragile things. I taught their heart how to stay soft in a hard world. They carry a sensitivity that doesn't come from experience alone, it comes from surrender. And now, I'm bringing them into your life, not as someone who needs your story to feel useful, but as someone who has been assigned to help shield the parts of you that have been most at risk. You won't have to earn their protection. You won't have to beg for their prayers. You won't have to ask them to stand with you. They will already be there, covering what you didn't even know was exposed. And it will feel strange at first. You may even resist it. Because for so long, you've only known connection that demanded explanation, covering that came with conditions. But this is different. This is covenant. This is my heart expressed through human hands. And you will begin to feel it in ways you can't deny. You'll find yourself resting where you used to brace. You'll catch yourself breathing slower in their presence. Your spirit will begin to unfurl, like something long shut finally trusting the light again. That's what covering does. It doesn't silence you, it makes you feel safe enough to speak. It doesn't trap you, it frees you to become. And through them, I will show you that love isn't just about presence. It's about protection. I am not sending them to fix what's broken. I'm sending them to shield what's still healing. And they will do it naturally, consistently, humbly, because they don't see your tenderness as a flaw. They see it as sacred. So let them cover you even when you're not used to it. Let their intercession meet the places your voice no longer reaches. Let their care undo the fear that no one could ever see your depth and stay. Because they're not staying to be heroic. They are staying because I called them to. And in every silent moment where you feel seen without being exposed, held without being controlled, protected without being possessed, know that I am with you. I have placed a guardian in human form beside you. And through them, I am restoring your belief that what is delicate can still be safe in someone else's hands. This time, you won't have to work to be chosen. You won't need to overextend, overthink, or overcompensate just to be worthy of staying. You've done that for far too long, wearing the versions of yourself that others found more palatable, drinking the parts that made them uncomfortable, and giving more than you had, just to avoid the fear of being abandoned again. You were taught that love had to be earned, and that rest came only after you prove your value. But I'm interrupting that pattern now. I'm sending someone who won't require a performance to remain. Someone whose love will not be purchased through your exhaustion. They are not coming to admire your strength only when it benefits them. They are not staying because you are useful, they are staying because you are worthy. And not because of what you can do, but because of who you are. You will not have to shapeshift to be palatable. You will not have to entertain, impress, or constantly achieve to keep their attention. Their love won't be tied to your productivity. Their loyalty won't disappear when your energy runs low. You will learn, through their presence, that your stillness is just as welcome as your accomplishments. You will begin to see that love doesn't ask for exhaustion as proof. Because this person isn't drawn to your performance, they are drawn to your presence. The real you. The quiet you. The you that's unsure, unfiltered, unfinished. That's who they'll want to know. That's who they'll choose, over and over again, not out of obligation, but out of recognition. They'll recognize what I've placed within you, even when you forget. And they will not turn you into a project or an achievement. They will not make you prove your worth through perfection. They will walk beside you in the days where all you can do is simply exist, and they will call even that holy. That's the difference. That's the gift. That's how you'll know it's me. Because I don't send people into your life to drain you. I send them to show you what love looks like when it doesn't ask you to perform for peace. This person will bring calm, not pressure. They'll move slowly, not because they're unsure, but because they know that sacred things should never be rushed. And you, your soul, your story, your unfolding are sacred. And as you begin to rest in their consistency, you'll start to unlearn what life taught you about your worth. You'll stop apologizing for needing rest. You'll stop feeling guilty for not always having something to offer. Because they won't see your rest as laziness or your honesty as weakness. They'll see it as human. And in loving the whole of you, even when the lights are off and the applause has faded, they will help you recover the pieces of yourself that were buried under performance. There will be no transaction in this connection. No unspoken ledger keeping track of who did more, gave more, caring more. There will be balance. There will be grace. There will be space. And when the days come where you fall short, because they will not tally your failures. They will sit beside you and hold the space where shame once lived, and they will not move until you feel safe again. This is what I mean when I say covenant. Not a contract that expires under pressure. Not a relationship built on usefulness. But a bond that remains steady even when nothing about you feels enough. Because love, true love, doesn't require performance, it makes room for presence. And I am sending someone who has been refined enough to know the difference. Someone who has learned, through their own journey, that love is strongest when it holds without demanding. When it listens without rushing. When it sees your weariness and says, "You don't have to prove anything to me. I'm already here. So rest, child. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath deepen. Let your soul be seen without the layers. Because this time, you won't have to perform to be kept. You will be loved simply because I said you're worth loving. And that will finally be enough. There will come a moment, not in your strength, not in your clarity, but in your mess, when this person will see the side of you usually hide. The one you've tried to protect others from. The one that wrestles with questions that have no clean answers. The one that breaks down without a script, collapses without warning, weeps without words. And when that moment comes, they will not step back. They won't grow silent, uncomfortable, or try to distract you out of your depth. They will remain steady, still, present. Your voice won't rise in panic. Your tone won't shift into disappointment. They won't begin to treat you differently just because they see a side of you that's less composed. Instead, they will meet you there right in the middle of it, with the same reverence they showed you on your best day. Because I didn't choose someone for you who only honors your highlights. I chose someone who is unshaken by shadow. Someone who has learned that intimacy is not about entering only when things are pretty. It's about staying close when things get real. And you, my child, have needed that for a long time. Not a visitor to your pain. Not a spectator of your process. But someone who stands beside you without requiring you to fix yourself first. You've encountered too many people who loved you when you were strong and disappeared when you were breaking. Too many who wanted your insight, your laughter, your light but not your tired eyes, trembling hands, or silent breakdowns. And so, you trained yourself to only share the parts that wouldn't make people uncomfortable. You began to silence your sorrow so your presence could stay acceptable. But I never asked you to do that. And I'm not allowing it anymore. Because the person I'm sending has been through their own nights of grief, the kind that rewired their empathy and deepened their patience. They know what it's like to unravel. They know what it feels like to be met with judgment in vulnerable places. That's why they'll never offer you correction when you need comfort. They won't try to rescue you when all you need is to be held in silence. They know the language of presence, and they speak it fluently. I've taught them how to stay when staying is uncomfortable. I've taught them how to walk slowly when the one they love is moving through fog. I've taught them how to listen longer than they speak. And I've chosen them because they will not fear your valley, they will walk through it beside you, carrying nothing but love. There will be moments when you cannot explain what you feel. When your only prayer is a sigh. When your only strength is showing up. And in those moments, they will not ask you for more than you have to give. They won't grow distant or demanding. They'll stay steady. And that steadiness will do something miraculous. It will begin to rebuild your sense of safety. Slowly, you will feel your insides unclench. You'll find tears falling more easily, not because you're falling apart, but because your spirit is finally allowed to release what it's been holding for years. And they will be there, not trying to organize your pain into tidy sentences, but simply honoring it as sacred. You'll learn that love doesn't require a version of you that's always okay. And in that lesson, you'll begin to heal. Because when someone remains after you've shown them the rawest version of yourself, it rewrites everything pain tried to teach you. It silences shame. It breaks the lie that you are too much when you're struggling. It undoes the belief that you're only lovable when you're strong. I'm not sending someone who will worship your potential and flee from your process. I'm sending someone who will kneel in your process and remind you that even in your lowest moment, you are not abandoned, you are not burdensome, and you are not alone. They will meet you there not to change you, but to remind you that nothing about your fragility disqualifies you from being loved deeply, fully, endlessly. You've grown used to people either rushing you through your process or abandoning you when your healing took too long. Many have loved the idea of your growth but not the reality of your slow days. They applauded your strength, but grew uncomfortable with your stillness. They wanted to stand beside you when you were climbing, not when you were catching your breath. And in response, you adapted. You've become good at hiding the slowness, at pushing yourself to move at speeds that betrayed your own soul just to avoid the look of disappointment in their eyes. But I never asked you to perform for progress. And the person I'm sending won't either. They won't be in a hurry to push you somewhere you're not ready to go. They won't mistake your poses as failures. They won't label your quiet as delay. They've walked long, winding roads themselves. They understand that healing doesn't happen on a timer, that restoration doesn't look the same every day. And because of that, they won't outpace you. They'll walk beside you, not ahead to drag you, not behind to pressure you, but right next to you, in step with your current season. They will match your breath, match your silence, match your pace, not because they are slow, but because they are sent. Yet even in their gentleness, they will never stop believing in your destination. Their love won't coddle you into stagnation. It will gently stir you into movement when you're ready, when it's time, when I lead. Because I've placed within them a vision not just of who you are now, but of who you're becoming. They won't only see your present, they will carry a deep awareness of your promise. They'll speak life not just into what they see, but into what's still unfolding. And in doing so, They'll awaken a sense of direction within you that shame once buried. They will believe for you when you're too tired to believe for yourself. On days when your hope flickers, their words will be like oil for the flame. Not forced motivation, but divine remembrance. They will remind you gently, consistently of what I spoke over you. Not with pressure, not with guilt, but with clarity. They'll speak it in the pauses, whisper it into silence, reflect it in how they treat you when you forget your worth. And that is how you will know they were not sent to speed you up, but to walk with you through what I'm building in you, no matter how long it takes. I've trained them in patience. Not the kind that waits passively, but the kind that walks faithfully. They've learned how to be present with people who are in process. They know how to hold a vision while honoring the present. They carry a quiet hope, a steady hope that doesn't fluctuate with your emotions. When you stall, they'll wait. When you weep, they'll stay. And when I say move, they'll gently point toward the path ahead without needing to shove you forward. This is the love I've always wanted you to know. One that waits and walks. One that sees your past, honors your present, and believes in your future all at once. It's rare. It's holy. It's divine. And I'm bringing it to you not to rush you into becoming something faster, but to reassure you that becoming takes time, and you're still on schedule. So don't be alarmed when someone finally shows up who moves slowly with you. Don't question it when you feel them quietly syncing with your rhythm. That's not hesitation, that's reverence. That's not distance, that's alignment. And if you feel them gently turn your gaze toward what's next, know it's not pressure, it's purpose. I've placed that in them, so that even as they match your step, they still carry the clarity of where I'm taking you. And when the time comes to move forward, you won't be afraid because you'll already be walking with someone who stayed long enough to know your pace and loved you enough to believe in your destination. There are some things in you that didn't begin with you. Patterns you've carried that were passed down silently, generational wounds masked as personality traits, inherited fears cloaked in learned behaviors, cycles of emotional shutdown, overgiving, isolation, and distrust that you never asked for but ended up wearing like second skin. You've tried to name them. You've tried to break them. And you've done so much of that work alone, in silence, behind closed doors, in rooms where no one clapped, where healing felt like digging through stone with your bare hands. I saw it all. I honored it all. But there are some chains that don't fall by effort alone, some break only when my presence enters through someone else who carries the weight of breakthrough. That's why I'm sending someone whose nearness will begin to untangle what's been stuck for decades. Not through eloquence, not by diagnosing you, but by simply being who I've shaped them to be. You'll feel it before you can name it, the subtle shift, the inner trembling, the confusion giving way to clarity just by standing next to them. Where others triggered your defenses, they will bring disarming calm. Where others unintentionally reinforced your fear, they will pull it out by the root just by staying. This is the weight of anointing not seen in charisma or credentials, but felt in atmosphere. They are not your healer. I am. But I've entrusted them with the kind of presence that carries my authority. They've walked through fires of their own. They've surrendered in secret. They've laid their own cycles at my feet, and through their own deliverance, I've anointed them to carry something heavy enough to break what held you for years. The way they sit with you in silence will disarm shame. The way they laugh with you in innocence will restore trust. The way they speak without striving, pray without performing, hold without smothering, it will all echo something ancient and divine. Cycles begin to break not just when truth is spoken, but when love is sustained. And they will sustain it. When your voice falters, they will not turn away. When your old patterns try to return and convince you you're regressing, they'll be there not correcting, but covering. They'll remind you that healing is not linear, that freedom is not loud, and that you're not defined by moments of weakness. They will stand where others walked away. They will speak when others stayed silent. They will be still when others pushed. And that is how you will begin to feel something breaking, not with shouts, but with stillness. There is power in presence, and their presence is anointed not to entertain, but to establish. You will feel grounded when you're near them. Anchor, safe. And without realizing it, the behaviors you once thought were permanent will start to dissolve. You won't need to over-apologize. You will stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. You'll laugh and catch yourself surprised by how natural it feels. You'll cry and realize you're not ashamed for once. That's not coincidence. That's covenant. I placed them in your life as a holy interruption. To the cycles, to the trauma loops, to the subtle sabotage that crept in unnoticed. They will notice, not with judgment, but with grace. Not to expose you, but to protect what's being healed. And they'll do it naturally, not because they're trying to fix you, but because freedom flows from who they are becoming in me. And as they continue to walk with you, layer after layer will begin to fall. You'll remember who you were before the patterns. You'll meet the version of yourself you buried under survival. And when you do, they'll still be there. Not surprise, not distant. Just present. Steady. A witness to the miracle of you becoming free in real time. This is more than support. This is spiritual warfare. And their presence is a weapon the enemy can't argue with, because what love sustains, no lie can hold. What grace covers, no shame can claim. And what I've joined through my spirit, hell itself cannot undo. Not because you make a conscious decision. Not because someone finally convinces you with words. But because trust will begin to return like a slow sunrise, gradual, subtle, undeniable. You've lived for so long in the shadow of broken promises and betrayed expectations that trust stopped feeling like an option. It became something distant, something theoretical. You trained yourself to smile and stay guarded at the same time, to nod while your heart stayed hidden. And in doing so, you protected yourself, but you also began to believe that this was just how life would be now. That connection without fear was for other people, not for you. But I am undoing that belief, not by commanding it, but by surrounding you with someone whose consistency will begin to melt the walls you forgot you built. They won't ask for your trust. They won't pressure you to give it. They will simply remain. Not once or twice, not only when things are easy, but over time, through silence, through storms, through the ordinary rhythms of your unfolding. And as they stay, your defenses will begin to shift. Not because you try to lower them, but because they no longer feel necessary. This is the miracle of trust reborn. It comes when love proves, through action and presence, that it won't leave. They'll walk with you through misunderstandings and not use them as a reason to disappear. They'll see your guarded responses and not take them personally. They'll sense your hesitation and won't rush you beyond what you're ready to reveal. They will be steady when you are scattered, patient when you are slow to speak, and gentle when old wounds rise to the surface again. Because they know, whether through their own story or through my spirit, that trust is not something to demand. It's something to earn through consistency, through integrity, through presence. And their presence will carry that healing rhythm. I did it again. Until one day you find yourself speaking more freely. Smiling without wondering if it's too much. Asking for help without feeling ashamed. These small shifts will feel like breathing again after holding your breath for far too long. You'll stop rehearsing what to say and begin saying what's true. You'll stop fearing rejection at the default. You'll stop preemptively pulling away in order to protect yourself from being left behind. Because you will see they are not leaving. Not when you're quiet. Not when you're struggling. Not when you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. They won't measure you by how fast you open up. They'll simply keep showing up until trust begins to feel like something safe again. Something holy. Something yours. And as that trust builds, deeper healing will begin. Because trust is the soil where your heart begins to bloom again. Where vulnerability becomes strength, not weakness. Where honesty becomes freedom, not risk. Where love is not something you tiptoe around, but something you begin to rest in. That rest will come in layers. Not as a single moment of surrender, but as a series of little releases. You'll find yourself talking about things you swore you'd never mention. you'll find yourself not only letting them in, but wanting them close. The desire won't be based in fear or desperation. It will be rooted in the safety you've discovered. The safety I've built around you through this person I've sent. Your voice won't just sound calm, it will carry safety. Their silence won't feel distant, it will feel like space created for your soul to breathe. This is what I've prepared for you. A holy rebuilding. A restoration of what was lost, stolen, or shattered in the hands of those who weren't equipped to hold you. And now, I am bringing someone who is. Someone who understands that trust is not a demand, it's a gift. One that is given when love is real, consistent, and humble enough to wait for the opening, not force it. You won't have to announce when trust returns. You'll simply realize one day that you're no longer hiding. You're no longer waiting for the goodbye. And you will smile not because you planned to, but because your heart remembered how. You remember how even small things could stir up big pain, certain tones, specific silences, shifts in body language or glances that reminded you of old wounds. You didn't always know why, but your soul did. The parts of you that were never allowed to fully heal kept you on alert, and over time you learned to live with that hyper-awareness like armor. You weren't overreacting. You were responding from places that had been misread, mishandled, or ignored too many times. And to survive, you built systems around yourself. You became an expert in emotional exit strategies, withdrawing before anyone could get close enough to do real damage. But that was never how I intended you to live, constantly interpreting the world through the lens of what's already broken, constantly bracing for impact in relationships that were supposed to be restful. That's why I'm sending someone who will not only respect those tender places but help transform them. Not by fixing you, not by making you dependent, but by simply treating what's inside you like it's sacred. They'll notice when you flinch without accusing. They'll pause when your body tenses, not to walk away, but to slow down and let the moment breathe. They will not press for explanations. They will give permission for healing. And as they move differently, speak differently, love differently, you will begin to feel something shift. The familiar scenarios that once made you feel unsafe will become opportunities for safety to grow. Where you used to shrink back, you will begin to stay. Where your body used to brace for impact, it will begin to soften. Not all at once, but steadily. Because healing happens in the presence of consistency. And consistency is what they carry. Their gestures may look simple to others, but to you, they'll feel like oxygen. The way they wait for you to finish your thought instead of jumping in. The way they let you take up space without needing to explain why. The way they ask if you're okay, not because it's polite, but because they truly want to know. It will undo something in you. Not with force, but with kindness. You won't need to perform healing for them. You won't need to hide the parts of you still learning how to respond without fear. They will see your effort, not just your edges. They will speak to the healing version of you, not the hurting one. And that will change everything. Because the human heart is wired to bloom when it knows it won't be punished for being in process. This is why I chose them. This is why their voice will calm what once caused you to spiral. This is why their nearness won't crowd you, but soothe you. I've given them the discernment to see your trauma without being frightened by. I've given them the maturity to walk slowly through your emotional terrain without rushing to the finish line. They'll see the complexity and not run. They'll hear the unspoken tension in your voice and meet it with understanding instead of frustration. And through every moment like this, your soul will learn what safety really feels like. Not the kind that pretends nothing hurts, but the kind that doesn't punish you when it does. And little by little, the things that used to trigger your defenses will lose their power. Not because the past didn't happen, but because I'm writing a new narrative in your present. You'll learn that not everyone walks away. That not every quiet moment leads to rejection. That not every hard conversation leads to the end. And as you learn that, freedom will begin to grow in the places fear once ruled. You will start to respond from peace, not panic. From truth, not trauma. They won't just say you're safe. They'll live it. With every word they don't say, every rush they don't place on you, every judgment they never make, they will teach your heart how to rest again. And that rest will make room for joy. And that joy will become your new memory. And that memory will remind you, love can exist in places where fear used to reign. Not long ago, you still believed that love had to be earned. That if you made one mistake, it would all fall apart. That your softness was a liability. That your missteps would be the exit sign others were looking for. You learned to walk on emotional eggshells not because you wanted to, but because life taught you the price of being real. One vulnerable moment too early, one confession too deep, one day when your strength ran out and they left. So you adapted. You became the strong one, the understanding one, the reliable one who needed little and gave much. You turned your own needs into silent prayers and convinced yourself that it was easier that way. But I never created you to be loved conditionally. I never designed your heart to shrink itself for the sake of being tolerated. And I certainly never asked you to be flawless in order to be worthy. So now, I'm sending someone who will love you in a way that doesn't flinch at imperfection. They will not idolize you when you're at your best or withdraw from you at your worst. They will not fall in love with your highlight reel and flee from your quiet unraveling. Their love will not be based on your performance, it will be rooted in presence. They will not just stay when you're easy to love. They'll remain when you're frustrated, tired, messy, unsure. Because I've shown them what it means to love someone like I do, not selectively, but fully. Not because of, but even in spite of. And that kind of love doesn't just comfort, it transforms. You won't recognize it at first. It will feel unfamiliar. You'll wait for the other shoe to drop. You'll brace for the moment they start pulling away. But instead of distance, you will find devotion. Instead of critique, you will find calm. They won't rush you to be better. They'll celebrate the fact that you're still here. They won't demand constant growth to prove your value. They'll rejoice that you're healing, even if slowly. And slowly, something inside you will begin to shift. The self-protection you wore like armor will start to feel unnecessary. The constant measuring of your worth will begin to fade. You'll stop editing your soul to fit someone else's comfort zone. Because they won't just love what's beautiful about you, they'll love what's unfinished. And when you feel seen in the places you've tried hardest to hide, something inside you will break in the best way. The lie that told you you have to be perfect to stay loved will begin to die. It won't die with a shout. It'll die in silence, in stillness, in the moments where they stay when you thought they'd leave. In the moments where they choose closeness over critique. In the way they listen when you ramble, wait when you need time, and love you as you are, not as you could be. This is the kind of love I am bringing to your life, not to replace me but to reflect me. Because I've never once loved you for your perfection. I've always loved you through your process. And now, I'm giving you someone who's learned how to do the same. You'll notice it in their presence. They won't be keeping score. They won't be watching for the moment you mess it up. They will come open-handed, not looking to fix or mold you into someone else, but ready to stand beside you as you continue becoming who you already are. And as that love grows, so will your trust. Not just in them, but in yourself. You'll realize that you're not too much. You're not too hard to love. You're not a burden or a disappointment. You're human. And your humanity was never a problem for me, and it won't be a problem for them either. Because when love is rooted in me, it doesn't walk away at the sight of imperfection, it leans in closer. And that is exactly what you will feel from them. They won't love you to change you. They'll love you because it's who they are in me. And through that love, I will begin rewriting the story shame told you. Not just on the surface, but in the very foundation of your heart. Even before you try to put it into words, even before you begin to trace the timeline of how your heart became so heavily protected, they will already know. Not the details perhaps, but the weight of it. The architecture of your walls won't confuse them. They won't misread your hesitation as coldness. They won't take your pauses personally. Instead of retreating when you seem distant, they will remain quietly, patiently, without needing justification. Because I've given them eyes that see beyond the surface. And I've taught them how to love through discernment, not demand. They'll know the difference between a person who's uninterested and a person who's just been hurt too much to open easily. They will feel the distance and not be offended by it. They won't press you to open up too fast or guilt you into vulnerability. They understand that the walls weren't built for decoration, they were built for protection. Constructed brick by brick in moments when your voice wasn't heard, when your tears weren't safe, when your trust was misplaced in hands that didn't hold it well. And because they understand this, they won't try to climb over your walls. They will wait for the door, the one you'll open in time, when your spirit tells you it's safe. You've been around people who wanted access but didn't want responsibility. People who wanted your truth without the patience required to hear it. And so, you learned to protect what mattered most. You learned to smile with your mouth while hiding with your eyes. You learned to give enough to seem close without actually letting anyone all the way in. And I've seen you carry that tension. I've watched as you longed for connection but also feared what it could cost you. And I've never judged you for it. Now, I'm sending someone who won't fear your walls. They won't try to dismantle you. They'll simply draw near and let you know, I'm not leaving. They won't fill the silence with pressure. They won't rush the process. They won't call you complicated for needing more time. Instead, they'll honor your pacing. Because I've taught them that healing isn't about rushing past pain, it's about being trusted with it. And that trust takes time. You will feel it in their tone. They won't sound like others. There will be no push, no persuasion masked as kindness. Just a calm confidence in who you are, and who I've shown them you're becoming. And because they've done the work in their own life, they won't need you to be perfect to feel purposeful in your connection. They'll see your layers not as a challenge, but as a revelation, each one a doorway into deeper understanding, each silence an opportunity to love you better. As this relationship grows, the walls will begin to soften. Not because someone demanded their removal, but because love stayed consistent long enough for safety to grow. One by one, the locks will turn. The tension will ease. And one day, you'll look up and realize you're speaking without fear. You're sitting in silence without feeling like you have to fill it. You're staying, not because you're expected to, but because you want to. Because something sacred has happened. Trust has started to rewire your reality. They'll never mock your boundaries. They'll never ask why you take so long to open up. Instead, they'll celebrate the moments when you do. And they'll cherish them, not as their right, but as your gift. They will treat your vulnerability with reverence, and your honesty with honor. And through this, I will show you that the walls you once needed don't have to be permanent. Not all of them. Not with someone who was sent, not someone who just arrived. You won't have to explain the blueprints of your defense mechanisms. You won't need a detailed history for them to stay. I already showed them what kind of soul you carry, and they chose to come anyway. Not to tear you down, but to walk gently with you until your heart decides it's time to let someone in again. You spent much of your life subtly trying to earn your place, offering more than you had, giving pieces of yourself you couldn't afford to lose, shrinking your needs to be more manageable for others. You weren't trying to manipulate. You were trying to be accepted. You were trying to make your presence lighter so that no one would have a reason to walk away. Somewhere along the way, you started to believe that love only lasted when it was earned, that loyalty required labor, that affection had to be bought with silence, obedience, or constant self-sacrifice. And so you became smaller, quieter, more careful. But I never asked that of you. I never required you to prove your worth by carrying the emotional weight of others while neglecting your own. That's not love. That's imbalance. And I am breaking that cycle now, not with judgment, but with gentleness. I'm sending someone who has no interest in measuring your value by what you give. They are not coming to you with a checklist or conditions. They are coming with an awareness that your worth is not in question. It never was. They won't need you to explain all the ways you've been faithful. They'll see it in your eyes, in the way you hesitate before asking for anything, in how you flinch when they offer something without expecting a return. You won't need to apologize for your presence. You won't need to overcompensate with acts of service or self-erasure just to feel deserving. Because their love will not be transactional, it will be unconditional. Not perfect, but present. Not flawless, but faithful. This person I'm sending has unlearned performance-based affection. They have wrestled through their own lies of inadequacy and know the weight of trying to be enough. That's why they won't make you perform. They've already been on the other side of that burden, and they refuse to place it on you. Their love will feel different not just in how they speak, but in how they respond when you have nothing to give. They will not change when your energy is low. They will not withdraw when your strength fades. They will sit beside you in silence and stay. They will recognize the sacredness of simply being with you, even when you have no words left. Their loyalty won't be purchased by your performance. It will be a choice they make over and over, without needing you to earn it. And when you begin to question it because you will, they will remind you, not with speeches but with presence. They'll show up again and again and again, until your heart starts to believe what your mind still wrestles with. You are not too much to love, and you don't have to give everything away to deserve to stay. You'll notice the difference when you speak your needs without guilt and they don't flinch. When you say no and they don't make you feel small. When you fall short and they don't make it your identity. They will reflect me in how they respond, not with demand, but with delight. Not with pressure, but with patience. And slowly, you will begin to breathe differently. Not because you've become someone new, but because someone finally allowed the real you to come forward without requiring a receipt. This is the kind of love that heals not through words alone, but through steady, sustained kindness. The kind that sees your heart and honors it not because you proved its value, but because it's there. Because it's mine. Because it beats with purpose and beauty, even in its scars. And as you continue walking with this person, you will begin to realize that you don't have to trade your authenticity for affection. You don't have to sacrifice your needs to maintain connection. You can simply be and still be chosen. Because the love I'm sending is not fragile. It's not looking for perfection. It's not based on what you bring to the table. It is anchored in something far deeper, the recognition that your worth was decided long before you had to explain it. And now, it's finally time to rest in the presence of someone who sees that worth and loves you as you are, not as you perform. There will be days you don't have the energy to explain. Moments when your emotions press so deeply into your chest that words feel like a burden. Times when what you carry doesn't translate well into language, and all you can offer is presence, not conversation. You've been conditioned to feel guilty for those moments. Conditioned to believe that silence is a problem that needs to be fixed or filled. And in response, you've often forced yourself to speak, to reassure, to pretend just to keep peace. Just to avoid someone taking your stillness the wrong way. But I'm rewriting that now. I'm sending someone who understands your silence without fear, who will not interpret your quiet as distance, your pause as punishment, your retreat as abandonment. Because they've been in those moments themselves. They've sat in their own quiet storms, unsure how to reach for someone, knowing what it feels like to need space, but fear being misunderstood. So when your voice gets soft, they won't panic. They won't assume you're pulling away. They won't flood the silence with pressure. Instead, they'll sit with it. Honor it. Understand it. They'll wait not with impatience but with peace. They'll know the difference between emotional avoidance and emotional saturation. They'll sense when your silence isn't about them, it's about safety. It's about processing. It's about healing. And in that understanding, you will begin to experience a kind of comfort you didn't know you needed. You won't feel like you have to perform emotional clarity on a schedule. You won't feel the weight of being misunderstood hanging over your every interaction. Their presence will reassure you even in the absence of words. And slowly, your silence will become less about protection and more about rest. Because when you are finally with someone who doesn't require constant explanation to stay connected, your soul learns to breathe again. This is what I'm giving you. someone who listens between the lines, who hears your poses as clearly as your declarations, who notices the way your eyes shift when you're overwhelmed, who reads your sighs-like sentences, who holds your stillness as carefully as your spoken thoughts. Your understanding won't be invasive. It will be intuitive, gentle, sacred. They won't need to ask what's wrong every time. They'll simply offer presence. And that presence will remind you that you're not alone, even when your words are. You've spent years surrounded by people who interpreted silence as rejection. People who asked you to be real but were uncomfortable when your honesty didn't come with neat answers. People who mistook your quiet for withdrawal and responded with their own absence. And every time that happened, you closed in just a little more. But now, I'm healing that reflex by sending someone who will do the opposite. Someone who moves closer, not away, when you grow quiet. Someone who says with their presence, "You don't have to talk for me to stay." You won't need to apologize for being quiet. You won't need to force words just to keep someone from leaving. You'll be able to rest in the silence, knowing it's held, not judged. That is what true understanding looks like. It doesn't demand clarity before offering comfort. It doesn't panic when emotions slow down. It doesn't rush the process of expression. It waits. It witnesses. It remains. And as they continue to love you in the quiet, something will begin to heal. The fear of being too much when you're emotional will start to fade. The fear of being too little when you're quiet will begin to break. You'll find yourself speaking again not because you're pressured to, but because you're free to. That freedom will grow slowly, tenderly, until one day, your voice will return not out of fear, but out of fullness. Because you were loved in the silence. Not put. Not questioned. Just held. There will be moments when they could move faster, when their heart will feel ready to step deeper, reach further, build higher. But they won't. Not because they are unsure of their own emotions. Not because they are holding back out of fear, but because they see you. They truly see you. They see the tempo of your healing. They hear the rhythm of your heartbeat still regulating itself after years of being thrown off by disappointment. And they will choose, again and again, to honor your timing over their own expectations. They will move with you, not ahead of you. And in doing so, they'll show you what it looks like to be loved by someone who doesn't need to possess your future to be at peace with your present. You've known what it's like to be rushed. To be loved by those who were more in love with the idea of arrival than the process of walking with you. People who wanted progress on their timeline. People who became frustrated when you needed a pause, a breath, a moment to catch up with your own feelings. And with each push, you learned to either force yourself forward before you were ready or retreat entirely just to survive. But this is not that. This person I've sent won't need to pressure you. They won't treat your readiness like a deadline. They won't see your stillness as stubbornness. Because I've shown them the beauty of your becoming. I've helped them recognize the power of pacing. They know that love deepens in the walk, not just in the destination. And while their heart may long for more closeness, more clarity, more of you, they will not rush you into offering something you're not ready to give. That kind of patience only comes from me. It only grows in those who have laid their own urgency at my feet and learned how to trust my timing more than their own feelings. And that's exactly what I've cultivated in them. They will not try to coax or convince you. They will not guilt you into opening up faster. They won't manipulate your progress to match their desires. Instead, they will sit with you in the moment. They'll celebrate the small steps. They'll hold the sacred space of not yet with reverence, not resentment. Their restraint will not come from indifference, it will come from love. Real love. My kind of love. The kind that waits, not because it's unsure, but because it's rooted. And in that waiting, healing will begin. You will feel safe, not pushed. You will feel valued, not rushed. For the first time, your pace will be protected by someone who isn't trying to fix you or fast-track your process. They will reflect the truth that your journey isn't a problem to solve, it's a story to honor. And when you look in their eyes and see no urgency, no demand, no hidden timeline, you will start to trust again. Not just in them, but in the idea that you can grow without losing your breath. That love doesn't have to cost your comfort. That presence doesn't have to come at the expense of your peace. This is the pace of grace. And through them, you will learn to embrace it. You'll begin to walk more freely, not because they pull you forward, but because you finally feel safe enough to move. And as you take each step slow, sacred, sovereign, you'll know you're not being watched like a project. You're being witnessed like a miracle. So don't be alarmed when they don't push. Don't doubt the depth of their care because they choose to wait. Waiting is not weakness. It's worship. It's the kind of worship that says, I trust God more than I trust my need for answers. And that's the kind of love they'll give you. Not one that paces around your hesitation, but one that quietly holds the space until you're ready to walk into more. And when you do, they'll still be there walking beside you, never ahead, always in step. There will be days you show up in pieces. Days when the version of you that smiles easily, speaks clearly, and holds it all together simply won't rise to the surface. Days when your body feels heavy with invisible weight. When your voice is quieter, slower, or absent altogether. Days when you don't recognize yourself, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you're weary from the unseen battles you've been fighting. In the past, those were the moments when people drifted, when their affection dimmed as your energy faded, when your change in tone was mistaken for distance, when your exhaustion was seen as disinterest. And so, over time, you learned to disappear on your difficult days not because you wanted to, but because you thought it would make it easier for everyone else. But I am sending someone who will break that cycle without you needing to ask. Someone who will draw closer, not out of pity, but out of recognition. They'll understand that your value is not diminished by your struggle. They'll love the version of you that's honest about being tired. They will not romanticize only your strong days, they will honor your fragile ones just as deeply. Because they aren't here for your performance. They're here for your person. You won't need to translate your sighs into sentences. You won't have to apologize for being less vibrant. You won't need to explain why your eyes are heavier or why you aren't speaking as much. They'll know. And more than that, they'll stay. Not with pity. Not with reluctance. With presence. With peace. With that steady kind of nearness that doesn't look for a way out when you're not at your best. They will not treat your fatigue like a flaw. They will see it as part of your humanity. And where others once grew distant in those spaces, they'll press in not to fix, but to support. Their love won't falter when your energy does. They'll still delight in you, not because you're doing something impressive, but because being near you is enough. Because your worth to them is not measured by how well you hold it all together. It's measured by the fact that you exist, that you're here, that you're choosing to keep showing up even on the days when you feel like a shadow of yourself. This will feel new to you. Strange, even. Because for so long, you've learned to equate your value with your strength. You've believed the lie that love shrinks when your brightness dims. That connection only lasts if you can keep performing peace, even when you're unraveling inside. But this time, you won't have to put on a show. This time, you'll be met with someone who doesn't require a mask to stay close. And slowly, gently, you'll begin to believe that love can be real even on your off days. That belief will change how you move. You'll begin to take deeper breaths. You'll stop rehearsing who to be. You'll begin to relax into moments without trying to curate them. And they will notice. They'll notice how your eyes soften when you realize you're not being studied or measured. How your shoulders drop when you realize silence doesn't scare them. How your hands unclench when you realize you don't have to constantly offer something to be welcomed. They will give you room to be in process without treating it like a problem. They'll sit with you in the quiet and call it holy. They'll hear your silence and still feel your presence. And when the light returns to your eyes when you start to feel like yourself again, they will celebrate your return, as if your worth had ever left. Because to them, you were still you all along. Just tender. Just tired. Just real. And I will use them as a mirror not to reflect who you think you should be, but to remind you that the person you are, even in stillness, even in sadness, is deeply lovable. So don't hide on the hard days. Let them see you. Let them stay. Because I've prepared them, not to need your best in order to give you theirs. There are moments when the heaviness is invisible to the world, when your face holds a softness that conceals the ache just beneath it, when your eyes remain bright even while your heart quietly begs for rest. You've learned how to function without falling apart, how to support others, while carrying pieces of yourself that no one knows are even broken. And because you rarely crumble publicly, they've assumed you're always okay. They've missed the cues. They've overlooked the quiet signs. They've believed your smile while your soul was screaming. So you've carried burdens in silence, because explaining them felt harder than enduring them. But the one I'm sending is different. They won't be fooled by the surface. They won't be distracted by your composure. They won't interpret your strength as the absence of pain. They will see what others miss. They will sense what others ignore. Because I've given them eyes that see beyond appearance. I've given them a heart trained to recognize the language of hidden weight. When they look at you, they'll notice the subtle shifts, the slight drop in your tone, the delay before you respond, the smile that doesn't quite reach your eyes. And instead of pointing it out with pressure, they'll approach it with tenderness. Not to demand an explanation, but to let you know you're seen. They won't need the full story to show up with full support. They won't need you to recount every battle to begin praying. They won't need you to justify your struggle to begin standing beside you. You'll realize that this love isn't earned by vulnerability. It's given first, so that vulnerability becomes possible again. They'll create the kind of space where you will feel the need to wear the mask. You won't be forced to choose between being real and being loved. You won't feel punished for being weary. They will carry you not with force, but with quiet, constant care. And in that care, your spirit will begin to loosen its grip on the pressure to always be okay. This is what my love looks like when it walks in flesh beside you. It looks like someone who sees behind the curtain of your composure and doesn't run. Someone who doesn't idolize your strength, but honors your softness. Someone who doesn't rush to fix but stays to understand. You've given so much of yourself without asking for much in return. But now I'm sending someone who will recognize that effort without making you prove it. You'll feel it in the way they ask, "How are you really?" Not casually but sincerely. You'll feel it when they don't get impatient with your pauses, when they don't try to shift the conversation away from your pain. You'll feel it when they check in not just once, but again and again, because they don't see your ache as inconvenient, but sacred. You won't have to explain why you're tired. They'll already know. And instead of offering cliches, they'll offer presence. This is the kind of attention that heals without demanding. It's the kind of awareness that says, "I see what you're carrying, even when you say nothing, and I'm here, not to take it from you, but to walk with you while you hold it." That kind of presence begins to break down the belief that you're only valuable when you're doing well. It begins to rewrite the lie that you are too much when you're not your most put-together self. They will love you with the understanding that you've become skilled at surviving quietly, but now it's time to be supported visibly. And they will do it with humility, without needing to be noticed, without needing to be thanked. Because I've given them a mission to reflect my love in how they hold your heart. And they will do it without needing you to cry out loud. Your quiet pain is still valid. Your hidden exhaustion is still real. And I'm not asking you to shout it, I'm sending someone who will hear it without a sound. There will be days your progress feels slow, your emotions feel tangled, your responses feel heavier than you want them to be. You will want to be further along. You will wish you didn't still flinch in familiar places. You will wonder if the cracks still showing in your voice mean you're somehow behind. And in those moments, you will fight the urge to apologize for being where you are, for still needing time, for not arriving at some invisible finish line. But hear me clearly. The one I'm sending will never see your healing as a burden. They will not walk into your process expecting a shortcut. They will not treat your journey like something that must be managed or tidied up to remain acceptable. They will hold it like the sacred thing it is. They will never rush you through your healing. They won't hand you a list of what you should already be over by now. They won't measure your growth by how fast you move forward. They'll know that true transformation takes time. That sometimes healing happens in the same place where the wound first formed. That sometimes you have to revisit what hurt to retrieve what was lost. And when that happens, when your healing circles back to familiar territory, they will not grow tired of your process. They will not roll their eyes at your tears. They will not sigh in frustration at your pace. Because they are not attached to a version of you that only exists when you're thriving. They have chosen to love you in every season, including this one. Including the days when healing doesn't look triumphant, but tender. Including the moments when your strength is quiet, shaky, even invisible. I've taught them that the sacred work of healing is slow on purpose. It's deliberate. It's holy. And it can never be rushed if it is to be real. So they will sit beside you with open hands, not trying to push you through your restoration, but honoring every layer you're uncovering. They won't need constant proof that you're getting better. They'll simply notice the light returning to your voice in places where silence once reigned. They'll celebrate the subtle shifts the moment you speak a boundary instead of holding it in. The day you ask for support without apologizing, the breath you take before reacting the way you used to. And they'll recognize that those small moments are miracles. They'll honor your inner victories with the same joy others reserve only for outward success. You will not be punished for having moments of vulnerability. You will not be made to feel like your emotions are a disruption to their peace. Because I've prepared them to carry peace of their own. A peace that's not dependent on your mood, your progress, or your predictability. They are rooted in me. And because of that, they are not afraid of your unhealed places. They don't need to tidy up your soul for their comfort. They are there to witness, not to edit. To walk beside, not to diagnose. And through that quiet companionship, healing will happen in places that trauma once convinced you would stay frozen forever. This is the kind of love that transforms. Not because it rushes to fix, but because it commits to stay. Not because it demands resolution, but because it honors reality. They will stand by you when your past tries to whisper again. They'll remind you, softly, that who you are becoming is worth the time it takes to get there. That you're not behind. That you're not broken. That you're not too much to love. And over time, the shame you've carried for still healing will begin to fall away, not because you forced it, but because it can't survive in an atmosphere of patience. So when you feel fragile, remember, you are not delaying anyone's destiny by taking your time. You are not too slow. You are not too complicated. You are healing, and that is holy. And I am sending someone who will treat it as such. They will meet your pain with peace. They will meet your process with honor. And they will stay not because you finished healing, but because love like mine doesn't wait for the wound to close to draw near. There have been moments in your past when love meant sacrifice, but not the sacred kind. You were asked to bend, stretch, and compromise in ways that left parts of yourself behind. You've known relationships where your no was treated as a threat, where your space was mistaken for distance, and where your silence was manipulated into guilt. You began to question if having limits meant you were unloving. You wondered if protecting your peace made you cold. You feared that if you ever truly stood your ground, you'd stand alone. But I never asked you to tear down your walls to prove your worth. I never called you to love at the expense of yourself. Now I am sending someone who will see your boundaries not as obstacles, but as sacred markers of your healing. They will not be intimidated by your self-awareness. They will not interpret your clarity as rejection. They will understand that boundaries are not barriers to intimacy but blueprints for safety. You will not have to justify your need for space. You will not have to apologize for needing time. You will not be punished for prioritizing your own emotional well-being. Because this person will recognize that what you've built around your heart was never designed to keep them out but to protect what's finally being nurtured inside. They won't ask you to shrink to keep the peace. They won't twist your maybe not yet into you don't care. They will not use closeness as currency or affection as leverage, because they love from wholeness, not from hunger. They've sat with me long enough to know that love cannot flourish in the soil of control. They've let me teach them that the most enduring relationships are not born from blurred lines but from honored ones. And so when you speak your truth, no matter how softly, they will lean in, not recoil. They will listen, not debate. And most of all, they will stay, not in spite of your boundaries, but because of how clearly they reveal your growth. You will begin to trust again, not by being pulled past your limits, but by being met at them with kindness, not pressure. With curiosity, not defensiveness. With love, not fear. That's how real connection is built, not through the erosion of boundaries, but through their mutual respect. And as they show you again and again that they can handle the real you, the discerning you, the protective you, the learning how to feel safe again you will begin to breathe deeper. You will start to stand taller. You will remember that love does not ask for less of you, it asks for more of the truth of you. And this time, truth will be safe. Your boundaries will not scare them away. They will not be offended by your honesty. They won't feel entitled to parts of you just because they are close to you. Because their love is not based on access, it's based on awareness. They know that every not yet is an invitation to stay the course, not a reason to run. And they will prove, not with loud declarations, but with quiet consistency, that love can wait without growing cold, that it can walk at your pace without losing its way, that it can honor your no without threatening to leave. So when you see them respecting what others tried to override, when you hear them ask, "What do you need?" instead of "Why are you like this?" when you feel them stay steady even when the rules change because you're healing, know that it is me loving you through them. Know that I am restoring what was stolen by relationships that took your boundaries as permission to break you. Know that this is not Gus support. It is divine alignment. It is my answer to every silent prayer you prayed while wondering if anyone would ever love you and still respect the parts of you that said, "I'm not ready." This is what I'm doing now, teaching you that your boundaries are beautiful, that they are not walls to hide behind, but doors you get to open when it feels safe, when it feels right, and not one moment before. And the one I've sent, they will never knock the door down. They'll simply wait on the porch with grace in their hands until you invite them in. There will be times when you pause before letting them closer. Times when your first instinct is to protect, not because you're pushing away love, but because you're honoring the ground you've just begun reclaiming. You fought too hard for your peace to hand it over quickly. You sifted through too many seasons of silence and disappointment to trust without intention. And while the world might label that as being guarded, distant, or hard to love, the one I'm sending will see it differently. They won't call your caution a flaw, they will recognize it as sacred wisdom. They won't respond to your hesitation with insecurity. They won't treat your need for space as a rejection of their love. Because I've prepared them to understand the weight of your becoming. They will know that the gates of your heart are not closed, they are being opened slowly, with prayer, with care, with a depth that demands time. And they will not rush you through it. They won't try to pry doors open or tug at your pace. They'll see that your caution isn't a defense against them, it's a commitment to not lose yourself in the process of letting someone in. You've spent years being told that healing makes you hard. But that's never been true. It has made you holy. It has taught you to choose carefully. It has given you the discernment to recognize the difference between someone who wants to witness your soul and someone who just wants to access your presence. And I have entrusted this next season to someone who will know the difference, too. Someone who sees your guarded moments not as walls, but as windows, clear signs that you value what's within and refuse to allow what once broke you to enter again unfiltered. And because they see that, they'll adjust not out of obligation, but out of reverence. They won't tiptoe around you out of fear, but they will move gently because they know they are walking on ground I've made sacred. They won't try to decode you like a puzzle, they'll sit with you like a prayer. And as they sit, wait, walk, and remain, you'll begin to realize that their love was never after your immediate openness, it was after your genuine trust. Not the kind that's performed for security, but the kind that's formed over time, in the quiet, in the moments when you least expect to be met with patience and find it anyway. They will not interpret your slow becoming as disinterest. They will not punish you for not blooming all at once. They will not guilt you for needing time to let down the habits that once kept you safe. Because they know that every boundary you've built wasn't to shut love out, but to protect the tender soil where love could actually grow. And as they continue to water that soil not with control, not with demands, but with presence, you'll feel something shift. A softening. A deep breath. A realization that you're safe enough not to rush, strong enough to take your time, and loved enough to be fully understood without being dissected. This is the love I designed for you, not one that asks, "Why aren't you more open?" but one that says, "Thank you for trusting me with where you are." A love that doesn't panic in the quiet, doesn't get loud in your silence, doesn't become impatient when your healing slows. A love that treats every layer of you like sacred ground. So the next time you feel the urge to say, "I'm sorry I'm taking so long," pause. Listen. Because their eyes will already be saying what I've placed in their heart. There is no rush. I'm still here. I still see you. And I still choose you. Because love like this, real love, holy love, knows that reverence is not resistance. It's the beginning of restoration. And your restoration, beloved, is right on time. There's a quiet ache that forms when your vulnerability is mishandled, when the sacred pieces you offered in moments of courage were treated like currency for deeper access, like tokens to be traded for intimacy. You've watched people take your truth and use it as leverage. You felt the sting of someone remembering your deepest pain only when it served their argument or made your softness a point of weakness. And because of this, you've learned to hesitate before you open up. You've questioned whether being transparent was worth the aftermath. You've wondered if anyone could receive your truth and still see you with honor. But I'm sending someone who will not measure the depth of your connection by how much you give. They will not make your openness a prerequisite for their loyalty. They will not wait for your stories just to feel closer. They will wait because they understand that your words, your history, your scars are sacred. They are not entitled to your past. They are entrusted, and they know the difference. This person won't ask for your secrets to secure your attention. They will sit with your silence and never see it as rejection. And when you do speak, when you finally let a piece of your history fall gently into the space between you, they won't respond with eagerness to analyze. They'll receive it with reverence. They'll understand what it cost you to share. And they'll protect it not just in action, but in spirit. They will never weaponize what you've shared. Never remind you of it in moments of conflict. Never bring it up to prove how well they know you. Because they are not here to possess you, they are here to honor you. Your vulnerability won't be a trophy they polish and place on display. It will be something they protect even when you're not in the room. Especially then. Because love like mine does not expose what was revealed in trust. You'll feel this difference immediately. It won't be loud. It won't be obvious to the world. But inside, your spirit will notice that nothing you offer is ever used against you. That your admissions aren't met with silence or manipulation. That your slow unfolding isn't treated like a prize to win, but a gift to cherish. And in that safety, you'll begin to open more, not because they demand it, but because your soul senses it's safe to breathe again. They will guard you without holding you. They will cover you without controlling you. They'll hold your confessions like prayers, not property. And when they speak about you to others, or to me, it will always be in a tone of tenderness. Because I've taught them that real connection doesn't come from how much you know about someone, it comes from how gently you hold what you do know. This is the difference between curiosity and compassion. Between someone who listens to understand and someone who listens to be abreast. The one I'm sending will never make you feel like you have to dig up your pain just to be worthy of intimacy. They will never force depth. They will create space, and they will let you walk into it at your own pace, knowing that any part of your story you share is not for their benefit, it's an extension of your trust. And that trust will be guarded. Quietly. Carefully. With hands that have been emptied of self-interest and filled with my spirit. You will not have to wonder if they repeat what you've told them. You will not have to guess how they speak of you when you're not around, because their covering will not change with the seasons. It will be rooted in covenant, not convenience. So share as you feel led. Speak only when your heart is ready. There is no rush here. Hello, clock ticking. Oh, scoreboard. What you reveal will never be used to manipulate your movement or measure your closeness. They will see you, hear you, and stay with or without the details. Because I didn't send them to extract your story. I sent them to protect your becoming. You've grown used to carrying things alone not because you always wanted to, but because it became the safest way to move. Time after time, you've reached for support only to find it inconsistent, conditional, or short-lived. So you adjusted. You taught yourself how to survive without leaning. You celebrated your own wins in silence. You learned how to wipe your tears quickly, how to offer strength when you were depleted, how to keep moving even when your legs trembled. And over time, you built a life around the belief that needing less meant hurting less. That showing up strong was safer than risking disappointment. But I never called you to be untouched by need. I never expected you to heal in isolation or thrive in solitude. And now, I am sending someone who will see through that strength, not to dismantle it, but to meet you there. They will recognize that your independence is not evidence of invincibility. It is evidence of resilience. And they will honor it. But they will also gently remind you that you don't have to carry everything just because you can. They won't try to interrupt your flow or insert themselves where you haven't invited them. They won't demand your dependence or try to prove their usefulness by fixing what's not broken. But they will be there. They will stand nearby with a kind of availability that doesn't pressure, it welcomes. A presence that doesn't expect you to hand over everything all at once, but makes space for you to do so when you're ready. They will let you be strong without making you feel like you have to be. And slowly, you'll begin to notice something shifting. Not in the way they help, but in the way you allow yourself to be helped. You'll start to recognize the subtle invitations for relief, the gentle offerings of care that don't require you to break down in order to be seen. You'll begin to see that you can be independent and still interwoven. That needing someone isn't a return to weakness, it's a return to design. Because I build you for connection, not isolation. This person will not treat your moments of self-sufficiency as threats to their significance. They will not shrink in the presence of your capability. They'll celebrate it. They'll marvel at your strength without demanding you always wear it. And when the time comes when your hands are full and your heart is heavy, they won't wait for you to collapse. They'll step in, not to rescue you, but to remind you, you don't have to do this alone anymore. Your support won't be loud. It won't be performative. It will be felt in the way they offer to share the weight without making it about them. In the way they watch your body language and step closer when they sense fatigue. In the way they show up without being asked, because they've paid attention. And when they do help, they won't make it a transaction. They won't make it about what you owe them later. Their assistance will not come with a cost, it will come with compassion. This is how healing works when love is present. Not by removing your strength, but by surrounding it. Not by forcing you into dependence, but by giving you the freedom to choose rest. And when you choose it, when you let them in, even just a little, you will find that it doesn't make you any less powerful. It makes you more whole. Because your independence was never meant to be your prison. It was a response to what you lacked. And now that I am bringing abundance, you can begin to soften again. Not because you must, but because you are finally safe to hold your head high. Your strength is beautiful. But let them near when the day feels longer than your arms can stretch. Let them hold space when your silence grows loud. Let them walk beside you not because you are unable, but because you were never meant to walk alone. And watch how love, when it honors your independence without questioning your need, becomes the very thing that teaches you how to rest. There will come a time when the story of where you've been begins to show in how you love, how you lead, how you speak truth, and how you navigate silence. And in that unfolding, parts of your past will rise not to haunt you but to remind you of how far you've come. You'll find yourself standing in places you once feared, loving in ways you never thought possible, making decisions from clarity instead of survival. And with that growth, there might be an old fear that creeps in. Will they still love me if they see how I became this version of myself? Will they honor the process or only admire the product? But this one I am sending doesn't just see who you are now, they carry a deep reverence for what it took to get here. They won't resent your scars or shrink from the stories that hold weight. They won't envy the strength you gained from the struggle. Instead, they'll stand in awe of it. They'll hear about the nights you cried alone and won't pity you. They'll praise the courage it took to stay. They'll know you've grown not because you were given an easy path, but because you walked through fire and still refused to let it define you. And that, to them, will be beautiful. They won't flinch when you share the moments that tested your faith. They won't look away when you speak about seasons of heartbreak, of being misunderstood, of being stretched beyond what you thought you could bear. They won't need to sanitize your past to stay close, because they understand that healing doesn't erase history, it transforms it. They won't need you to cut out pieces of your story to make them comfortable. They'll listen with humility, sit in your memory with care, and remain, not in spite of where you've been, but because of how it shaped who you've become. And as you let them in, you will find something new stirring, a freedom to reflect without shame, a grace to name what once crushed you without feeling crushed again. Because their response will be steady. Their love won't change with every page you turn. They'll walk through the chapters of your life like a reader who knows the ending is worth it even if the middle was messy. And that assurance will loosen the grip of fear you've had around your own timeline. You'll begin to feel proud of your process not because it was easy, but because it was honest. You'll stop disowning the parts of you that had to crawl just to keep going. And in their presence, you'll stop feeling like your history disqualifies you from deep connection. You'll stop believing the lie that only the polished version of you is worthy of love. Because when someone stays close in the face of your full truth, your heart begins to believe it's safe to be whole again. This is why I chose them. They've done their own work. They know what it means to rise from brokenness. They won't look at your process and try to rush it, revise it, or romanticize it. They'll meet it with reverence. They'll say, I see you, even in what you've overcome, especially in what you've overcome. And that recognition won't make you feel exposed, it will make you feel understood. So when your story begins to spill out in fragments, when your voice trembles telling truths you swore you'd never revisit, watch how they hold those moments not with pity, but with honor. Not with questions, but with stillness. And watch how their love doesn't shrink in the shadow of your past but rises. Because they were not sent to admire only your bloom. They were sent to love the whole root system. Even the parts buried deep in soil. Even the years no one saw. You are not too much for this kind of love. You are not too late for this kind of love. You are simply right on time for the kind of presence that says, I see where you've been, and I love you even more for it. You've known what it feels like to be compared. To feel the invisible weight of someone else's memory in the room with you. To love while constantly wondering if you're enough to be remembered when you're not present. You felt the sting of words that seemed harmless but carried echoes of someone who came before. And in your heart, you tried to make peace with it, tried to be understanding, tried to act like it didn't matter. But deep down, a quiet grief settled in. The grief of wondering if you'd ever be someone's first choice, or just a healing space between what they lost and what they hoped to find. I saw every moment of that. The way you swallowed your questions to keep the peace. The way you became softer just to avoid being compared. The way you shrank your needs so they wouldn't be measured against someone else's memory. You tried to make space where you were never fully invited. You tried to love in the shadow of someone else's history. But I never called you to compete to be loved. And I never asked you to diminish your worth just to be accepted. Now I'm sending someone who has no interest in asking you to outshine a memory. They will not hold your heart against the echo of a past relationship. They will not measure your value by how closely you resemble what they lost or what they once dreamed. They're not coming to you with a heart full of ghosts, they're coming with empty hands, ready to receive what I've placed in you for this exact time. Their love will not come laced with comparison. It will come clean and cleared whole. You will never have to wonder if you're being loved with hesitation. You will never have to earn your place by outperforming someone who's no longer here. They will make it known through presence, not just words, that you are not a placeholder. You are not a stand-in. You are not someone they are settling for while still wishing for someone else. They'll look at you and see you. Not a filtered version. Not a resemblance of someone they used to know. But you undiluted, unmeasured, fully seen. And when your insecurities rise because they won't dismiss them. They'll meet them with gentleness. They'll assure you, not by denying their past, but by honoring your present. They'll make it clear that while their story didn't start with you, this chapter belongs to you completely. And in that belonging, you'll find the kind of love that doesn't just claim you in words but proves it in peace. They won't need to erase where they've been to be honest about where they are going. And you won't have to erase yourself to feel like you fit. Because love doesn't require the erasure of one story to make space for another. It requires presence, attention, honor, and that is what they will give you. You will not have to wonder if their love is divided. You will not have to compete with someone's memory to be someone's future. They'll show you consistently, quietly, deeply that you are not second choice. That you are not here because someone else is absent. That you are not being compared to an old standard. You are the answer to a prayer they didn't know how to articulate. You are the miracle they didn't know they could still receive. And the love they offer you will reflect that not just on the bright days, but especially in the tender ones. So let go of the idea that you have to prove yourself to be kept. Let go of the belief that someone else's past disqualifies your present. I am doing a new thing, and this new thing will not ask you to erase yourself to be loved. It will invite you to be seen. And you will be seen. Not as a replica. Not as a rebound. But as the revelation I've prepared in secret. The one they did see coming, but won't ever want to live without again. There will be days when your words come through tears instead of confidence, when your truth doesn't sound eloquent but sounds raw and real. You will share things not to be dramatic, but because you finally stopped bottling what hurts. You will speak from the middle of the process, before the clarity arrives, before the pain fully heals. And those moments might scare you not because you doubt your truth, but because you've seen how others have misunderstood it before. You've been called too emotional, too intense, or too much, simply because you chose not to stay silent. You've seen faces shift, heard tones change, felt the room grow colder the moment your heart became visible. So you started editing yourself, not to lie, but to survive. But I'm sending someone who will not flinch when your soul speaks in unfiltered honesty. They will not recoil when your feelings surface without a tidy ending. They will not require you to wrap your pain in pretty language before it's worthy of being heard. They've done their own inner work. They've learned how to sit in discomfort without rushing toward a solution. And because of that, they'll see your emotional transparency as courage, not chaos. As intimacy, not imbalance. They won't listen just to fix you. They'll listen to know you. They won't categorize your feelings into problems that need immediate repair. They'll treat them like sacred threads in the fabric of your humanity. They'll see your ability to speak the truth of your heart as a sign of healing, not instability. They'll recognize that emotional honesty isn't a liability, it's a bridge. A bridge that allows you to meet each other where performance is stripped away and real connection begins. You held so much for so long. You've smiled while aching. Nodded while grieving. Agree when you wanted to scream. And you've done it because vulnerability in the past meant being blamed, misunderstood, or abandoned. But this time will be different. Because this person I am sending doesn't need your perfection to stay present. They've learned how to hold emotional complexity without withdrawing. They've been trained in compassion, not control. They will listen not just with their ears, but with their spirit. And slowly, you'll feel the freedom to be fully you, no disclaimers, no footnotes, no editing required. You'll stop apologizing for feeling deeply. You'll stop labeling your needs as burdens. You'll stop monitoring your expression, as if love depends on how well you hold it together. Because their love won't shrink when your voice shakes. It will falter when you need a moment. It would grow cold when your emotions grow strong. This is the environment where healing accelerates. Not because everything is solved immediately, but because nothing has to be hidden anymore. You'll cry, and they won't panic. You'll tremble, and they won't flee. You'll speak your fear, and they won't counter it with logic, they'll meet it with presence. And that presence will anchor you. Not by changing your emotions, but by confirming, you are allowed to feel all of this. I'm not leaving because of it. You'll find safety not in silence, but in shared space. You'll learn that emotional depth is not something to fear, it's something to be honored. And you will stop bracing for rejection when you're being real. Because being real is what I'm blessing in this season. You're not too much a child. You're just finally letting yourself be whole. And the one I'm sending, they'll love that wholeness. They'll make room for it. They'll celebrate it. Not because they need you to always feel deeply, but because they need you to feel freely. You won't have to explain why your voice broke in the middle of a sentence. You won't have to justify why a quiet day left your heart heavy. They'll simply stay. And in their staying, I'll show you that emotional honesty isn't the beginning of disconnection, it's the foundation of the deepest kind of union. There have been times when you've kept your dreams to yourself, not because you didn't believe in them, but because others didn't know how to handle what felt too big, too bold, or too impossible to them. You've learned what it feels like to share the deepest longing of your heart, only to be met with a polite nod, a half smile, or worse, an unspoken message that your faith should be smaller. You've watched people avoid your vision because it reminded them of the courage they never exercised. And slowly, you began to bury parts of what I planted in you. Not because you lost hope, but because you were tired of protecting your joy from the weight of someone else's doubt. But I never asked you to shrink the divine. I never called you to quiet the fire I placed inside of you. And now I'm sending someone who won't ask you to. They won't water down what I told you in secret just to make it easier to digest in public. They won't smirk when you speak about the impossible. They won't change the subject when your faith reaches further than what makes sense. Instead, they'll listen and lean in. They'll hear your heart as it beats with holy ambition, and they'll feel heaven moving in the room as you speak. They'll respond not with skepticism, but with sacred agreement. Because I've prepared someone who has learned how to believe. Someone who has wrestled through their own doubt, their own delay, their own wilderness, and has come out on the other side not jaded, but ready. Ready to believe again. Ready to build again. Ready to partner with someone who doesn't just dream big but dreams with me. They'll recognize that what you carry isn't just hope, it's instruction. It's blueprint. It's legacy. And they will not try to edit it. They'll ask, how can I help you carry it? You won't have to downplay your calling to keep their approval. You won't have to trade vision for comfort. Their love won't come with a condition that you tone it down to make it manageable. They won't need to understand every step in order to affirm what I've placed in you. Because their confidence isn't rooted in logic, it's rooted in me. And when I tell them, this one is walking with me into something extraordinary, they won't respond with fear. They'll say, then I'll walk with them, too. And that right there, that is where the shift will begin. You'll start speaking more freely. Not loudly. Not boastfully. But with clarity. With peace. With a sense of certainty that you thought you had to keep tucked away. Because you'll realize you are finally seen without needing to filter the promise. You'll share your ideas without shrinking. You'll talk about what you've been praying for without wondering if it's too much. You'll speak the language of faith and they'll speak it back. Their support won't be just verbal. It will be active. They'll pray over the blueprints. They'll ask questions not to critique, but to understand. They'll make room in their world for what I've called you to build. They'll adjust their rhythm to help you move with excellence. They'll intercede when your courage shakes, not to remind you of how hard it is, but to anchor you again in truth. Because I didn't send them to spectate. I sent them to partner. I didn't anoint you for solo endurance, I anointed you for shared purpose. And when their hands meet yours at the foundation of what we're building, something will come alive in you that's been waiting. Not just the dream, but the permission to dream fully. Out loud. Unapologetically. This is the beginning of what I promised. A connection that doesn't just hold your heart, but holds your purpose. A person who doesn't just love who you are but blesses where you're going. Someone who understands that honoring you means honoring what I whispered to you when no one else was listening. So speak freely. Plan boldly. Trust deeply. They won't laugh at your mountain-moving prayers, they'll pray them with you. And in that unity, I will breathe life into every dry place your dream has ever touched. There will be rooms in your soul still being restored. Rooms you've just begun to unlock. Corners you're still sweeping out. Foundations that are stable now but were once shattered and slow to rebuild. And you'll notice it, the hesitancy, the inner tug when someone steps too close to what's still being framed. Not because you're hiding, but because you've spent so long trying to repair what others only saw as a project, not a place to dwell in. You've opened up before, only to feel picked apart. You've shared glimpses of your process and found yourself surrounded by people who tried to redesign you before they even understood you. So you started doing the work in silence, brick by brick, without asking for help, not because you didn't need it, but because you couldn't risk being controlled instead of being supported. But I am sending someone who knows how to honor what's still unfinished. They will not come with blueprints and instructions. They will not walk into your process like a builder with their own agenda. They will come as a witness, as a companion, as someone who understands that to walk alongside a life still becoming is not to impose on it but to bless it. They will see the scaffolding and not be intimidated. They will see the exposed places and not offer shame disguised as solutions. They will ask, not assume. They will wait, not rush. They will remain, not retreat. Because I've taught them that healing doesn't require perfection to be shared. And I've shown them that partnership isn't about finishing someone, it's about staying present while the walls go up, the floors settle, and the light begins to return. They will not be impatient with your progress. They will not treat your vulnerability as volatility. When your emotions are raw, when your words are tentative, when your boundaries are still being shaped, they will walk with reverence. Not to fix, but to understand. Not to manage you, but to support. And as they do, something holy will begin to happen in you. Your process will stop feeling like a flaw. The places you once covered with apology will begin to feel sacred instead of shameful. You'll let them see the parts of you that are still learning how to be whole, not because you're proving your worth, but because you'll know they're not looking for perfection. They're looking for partnership. And partnership means meeting each other in the middle of the mess, not waiting at the end of completion. They'll celebrate your new beams of confidence, your small victories in boundaries, your slow and sacred no where once you said yes just to be accepted. They will recognize the holiness of those details. They will not envy the version of you that hides the work. They will honor the one who is still laying brick, still learning, still choosing to rise when the dust hasn't even settled. They'll say, I see the strength in this. I see the courage in your process. And I am not afraid of the work it takes to love someone still being rebuilt. This is not someone who will love the idea of you. They will love you in your dailiness, in your undone parts, in your learning curves. They won't stand at a distance waiting for the final reveal. They'll pick up a broom if needed. They'll show up when the work feels slow. They'll speak life when you question if any of this is even working. And when your foundation trembles again, because healing often comes with aftershocks, they will not panic. They will stand still and remind you that they are not here for what you offer fully formed. They are here because they see the beauty of what's forming. And that, beloved, is where I dwell, in the building, not just the finished home. I have watched you pour yourself into restoration. Now I am giving you someone who won't wait for the lights to be perfect to come in. They will walk into the work with their heart open, their hands steady, and their spirit surrendered to me. They will need to control the outcome. They will trust the builder. Here's a fine line between being seen and being put past what's sacred. You've walked that line before. You've opened the door slightly, trusting someone to meet you with care, only to find them reaching for more of your story, more of your emotions, more of your heart than you were ready to offer. Not because you were unwilling to share, but because your spirit needed to share on its own terms. You've learned how to be transparent without being fully exposed, how to reveal without losing your center. And in a world that often confuses vulnerability with availability, you've had to fight to hold that line, to protect your soul's timing, to defend your boundaries without becoming distant. But this time, the one I'm sending will understand the holiness of limits. They will hear your honesty and assume it's an invitation for deeper access. They won't see your softness and press for more. They'll recognize that being allowed to witness your truth is not permission to excavate your soul. They'll understand that presence is not about access, it's about posture. And their posture will be one of humility, not entitlement. When you speak from the deep, when you share something raw, when you let the veil lift just enough to be known, they won't lean in to get more. They'll sit back in reverence and honor what was given. They'll treat each word like a gift, not a gateway. They'll never press into a room you haven't opened. They will assume your openness means you're ready to be fully seen. Instead, they will wait for your invitation. They will let you lead the pace. They will know the difference between curiosity and covenant. Because I've trained them in restraint. I've taught them how to hold someone's heart without making it their possession. I've shown them that the soul is not a place to conquer, but to cover. And when they come near you, it won't be to take more. It will be to honor what's been shared and steward it well. You'll feel it in how they respond, not with questions, not with control, not with the kind of hunger that leaves you empty, but with peace, with stillness, with respect for the mystery of your journey. They will not confuse depth with entitlement. They will assume that because you cry in front of them, they now deserve to enter every wound. They won't misinterpret your closeness as consent to cross emotional lines. And because of that, your soul will stop flinching when you share. You'll begin to speak more freely, not because you're being pulled, but because you're being held. Not held back, held safe. That safety will make room for healing. Because safety isn't built in grand gestures, it's built in quiet restraint. In the moments when someone could push but chooses not to. In the moments when someone senses more but waits for your readiness. In the moments when your openness is met with stillness, not strategy. And this person, the one I'm sending, will live in those moments well. They'll carry the wisdom to know that spiritual intimacy isn't born through access, it's born through patience. And as that patience unfolds, you will begin to trust your own timing again. You'll stop second-guessing whether you're allowed to take things slowly. You'll stop apologizing for being in process. You'll begin to recognize that true love doesn't rush revelation. It doesn't demand full exposure before offering full presence, and doesn't trade emotional nudity for connection. It sees you where you are and says, that's enough. I'll stay here. This is how I love you, and now you'll experience it through someone who won't make your openness a transaction. Someone who won't need all the details to remain loyal. Someone who will not take more than what your spirit has released. Because love like mine waits. And waits well. It stays soft even when it senses more. And it stays steady even when it doesn't get to see everything at once. You've often carried your calling quietly, not because you lack clarity, but because you've seen how it unsettles others. The weight of your purpose has made some people shrink back. The favor I've placed on you has stirred insecurity in hearts that hadn't yet learned to celebrate what they didn't understand. You've watched how your gifts, though God-given, became sources of tension in places where comparison ruled. And so, you learned to carry the oil in silence, to shine just enough to stay welcome but not enough to draw unwanted attention. You mastered the art of hiding your fire in rooms that feared being consumed by it. But I did not anoint you to blend in. I did not call you to dull your light just to keep peace where purpose should have been embraced. I gave you this calling not as a burden, but as a banner. And now, I'm sending someone who will not try to hold it down but lift it higher. Someone who will not compete with your calling, but cover it. who won't shrink beside you but rise with you. They won't feel threatened when you walk in power. They won't become quiet when you speak with authority. They won't resent how others are drawn to your light. Because they'll know the light doesn't dim when it's shared, it multiplies. They'll understand that honoring your purpose doesn't minimize theirs. It magnifies the assignment I've placed on both of your lives. And when you speak with passion, they will not interrupt or redirect. They will listen. They will bless. They will protect what I've placed in you like it's sacred, because it is. You will feel it in the way they affirm you without condition, in the way they pray for your clarity without fear of being overlooked, in the way they remind you of your vision when you're weary, not because they want to benefit from your calling, but because they truly believe in it. Because I've shown them who you are. I've whispered to them what I've whispered to you. And now, their voice will echo what I've already been speaking in the quiet. This person won't need to outshine you to feel seen. They'll know that your anointing doesn't steal theirs, it strengthens it. You'll notice how they speak your name with honor in rooms you're not in. How they advocate for you without trying to control you. How they celebrate your wins like they're their own. And in their presence, you'll stop apologizing for the oil I've poured over your life. You'll stop questioning if your calling is too much to carry beside someone. Because finally, someone will choose to walk with you not just because of who you are, but because of where I'm taking you. They'll recognize the weight you carry and say, "Let me help you steward it, not let me manage it for you." They'll ask how to pray for the doors I'm opening. They'll be willing to walk at your pace not because they're chasing you, but because they know you're chasing me. And there will be no fear in them when your platform grows, when your voice reaches farther, when your influence expands. Because they'll know that your elevation is not a threat, it's a move of God. And when your knees buckle under the weight of your assignment, they will be there not lecturing, but lifting. They will remind you that you were never meant to carry the mantle alone. And they'll do it not to prove their strength, but to prove their faithfulness. To me. To the journey. To you. This is not partnership born out of convenience or flattery. This is covenant rooted in revelation. They will see what I see in you and treat it as holy. You won't have to teach them how to honor it. You won't have to beg for alignment. I've already shown them. I've already prepared them. And they will not fumble what I've trusted you with. They will not shrink in your shadow, because they know they stand in their own light too. There will be days when your spirit soars and days when your soul sinks without warning. You'll have moments when joy floods your chest like sunlight and others when sorrow slips in without knocking. You'll move through seasons of clarity where everything makes sense, and then, without explanation, shift into days where nothing feels solid. And in those moments, your first instinct may be to draw back to protect others from your intensity, to manage your inner world silently, to retreat behind a practiced calm so that no one has to carry the weight of your waves. Not because you want to hide, but because you've seen what happens when people get tired of the tides. When your highs make them nervous and your lows make them distant. You've known what it's like to be called inconsistent for feeling too much, to be labeled unstable when your heart simply needed room to be heard. But this time, I am sending someone who will not ride the surface of your mood, they will anchor to the bottom of your soul. They won't be shaken when your tone shifts. They won't start backing away when your countenance dims. They won't misread your silence as distance or your tears as threat. Because their love is not reactionary. It's rooted. And what is rooted does not move with the wind. It stands. It holds. It stays. They will not try to cheer you out of your feelings or fix you when you're fragile. They'll sit in the depths with you, not to pull you up too quickly, but to remind you that you are not alone while you're there. Their presence will come with pressure to perform healing, it will come with patience to witness it. And you will begin to understand what it means to be truly held. Not physically alone, but spiritually, emotionally deeply held in a way that doesn't rush or shrink in discomfort. When your heart wrestles and your words stumble, they will not ask you to get it together. They will ask, "Where can I meet you today?" And they'll show up not with a solution, but with steadiness. They will mirror your swings. They won't react to your emotions with panic or frustration. Because they are not there to regulate your experience, they are there to walk with you through it. Their love will be consistent, not performative. You'll find, even on your lowest days, that their tone remains gentle, their posture remains open, and their commitment remains unshaken. And over time, the fear you've carried that your emotional depth makes you unlovable, unstable, or hard to walk with will begin to unravel. You'll realize that your feelings were never a flaw to manage, they were invitations to be known. And for the first time, you'll experience someone who doesn't just tolerate the weather of your soul, but learns how to navigate it without losing sight of your worth. Because this love I'm bringing to you isn't scared of your storms. It doesn't walk away when the sky darkens. It brings an umbrella and stays in the rain. It doesn't require you to smile to be welcomed or to always be strong to be respected. It meets you in your reality and honors you there not as a problem to solve, but as a person to stay beside. And in that nearness, you'll stop apologizing for the way your heart feels deeply. You'll stop apologizing for the fluctuations, the fatigue, the fierce joy followed by a quiet ache. You'll start believing that someone can love you not just when you're steady, but when you're shifting. Not just when you're certain, but when you're unraveling. Because I prepared them to love you there, too. They won't need you to be easy to love. They will just love you well. And in that love, I will heal the fear that said, you are only worthy when you're easy. Because I made you whole, and even in your emotional waves, your worth is never up for debate. Amen.